And welcome back, everyone. It's been one hell of a year, and we are now into the new one of 2026. And what better way to start it off than with an episode that has been some time in the making with the one, the only Silver Fox, my man Cobra. How you doing, buddy?
Yo, buddy, how you doing? You good?
Mate, I am really good. Had a nice epic holiday at the end of last year. Spent a month in Southeast Asia with the missus, and just after the interesting 2025 that we both had, her with the double cardiac arrest, and me with still having my little mini strokes and shit like that, we said, "Fuck it, let's go on a holiday." We're broke as fuck, but man, we had a ball terror of a holiday, mate. For South Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, and Thailand.
Vietnam. Love it,
mate. Got to catch up with Elisar as well, which was really nice.
Brilliant, mate. Brilliant. Yeah, we see the thing is, mate, when something like bad happens like that, health wise, you gotta fucking make the most of whatever time you have. And it hits home, doesn't it? It hits home.
In a big, our New Year's resolution was that neither of us are going to die this year.
All right, you hope. You hope.
Fingers crossed. Touch wood. So, my man. Sorry, I'm just looking at our chat there. Yes, we do host that server, Pictish. My boy Orcs runs that. Someone who actually has a few brain cells to rub together. If you had me running it, mate, it'd be crashing every fucking 5 seconds. But yes, mate, this has been, like I said in the interview, sometime in the making. You've been a bit of an enigma. In that I always knew there was stuff about you, but I just didn't know what it was, what your background was. And over the years, we had Archie drop a bomb on stream a while back. So we finally reached a point where you could actually talk about some stuff. And it's going to be a fucking I think you're probably going to be borderline the most interesting guest I've ever had on, because you've lived one hell of a fucking life, my man.
Well, there's always a lot of interesting people in the community. I think there's been some great spotlights before. This is just the same as any other. It's just maybe slightly different, I'd say. But that's life.
Right. So we are going to go way, way, way back before everything. Before the uniform, before policing. Who was young Cobra as a kid when you were just about naught but a wee little worm?
Well, I think before I answer anything, I think I just need to put a few things, a couple of little things out there. So a lot of people may be asking why now, after all this time, am I prepared to do this interview? So I think it's only fair that I explain that a little bit. Are you all right with that, Boydie?
Of course, my man.
Okay, so just before we get into some interesting topics and stuff, so Boydie has been after me doing this for a long, long time, like a couple of years at least. And now
I'm really good at hunting men.
He's been on it for a long time, and I did share little bits and pieces with the podcast group over the years, but obviously for obvious reasons, I was active at the time, active service at the time, so therefore wasn't able to discuss things. You'll understand why throughout the interview. But it's now been 3 years since my retirement, and certain laws have passed, certain time periods have passed. Yes, there are things I'm not allowed to talk about. Yes, there are, you would describe them as NDAs. There are things such as the Official Secrets Act, and other bits and pieces. So there'll be stuff that I won't be able to talk about. But that mainly comes down to tactics and specific events in specifics. But what I can, and I'm happy to now talk about, especially as Archie has already disclosed live on air to a load of people, to a degree, a little bit of what I may have been up to in my past. So that caused a bit of confusion too. I had a load of people come into my lives and ask me questions, and whether they're military, whether they're police, whatever.
Stolen valor.
Oh, all kinds of shit. So
we'll come back to that. We'll come back to that.
So I decided about 5 months ago, after Archie come out with some of it, I thought, do you know what? I'm gonna have to set the record straight here, because I was getting loads and loads of questions. So I started to tell people, yeah, I'm retired. This is what to a degree what I used to do, and I'm happy to do this podcast. So going back to your original question, you asked what was little Cobra like. Well, okay, so I grew up in a very very strict army environment. So I was adopted as a young child at 4 or 5 years old, and my mother met an army, some army personnel, member of personnel, and they started a relationship, obviously, and they got married. So after a few years of that marriage, my who I would class my father now, my dad definitely, um, basically said, "Look, I'd like to adopt you. What do you think?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, you're the only dad I've ever known, so yeah, okay." So as immediately from there onwards, as soon as the marriage was agreed and everything was done, I literally left a little council estate. The next day, I was on an army barracks, and that's where I spent all of my youth, moving around. Well, he was moving around places to places, and I spent all of that young, early years, all the way up to about 14, 15 years old. I think I was about 14, 15 when we moved, and he retired from the armed services. But I spent all that time in various army barracks, learning the ways of children or kids being brought up in the army. So
Army brats.
yeah, very strict. Loads of physical exercise, loads of what I can and can't do. Pretty much, I couldn't do a lot. It was quite funny. And to be honest with you, the stripped upbringing really informed the person I ended up being and I am today. So you may not like it at the time as a kid, but you certainly appreciate it when you're a bit older. So that kind of give me my determination and my goal setting in life to achieve what I have done in my life. So yeah, that was quite a strong influence on me.
What were your hobbies when you were a young kid?
So ever since I was about 4 or 5 years old, I wanted to be a professional footballer. Living then in the army for that many years, in army quarters for that many years, it was always drilled into you, especially, I won't go into what my dad was, but let's just say he was in a specialist role for many yees. And what I learned from that was how to carry yourself, how to always achieve to be the very best at whatever you wanted to do and be, and that nothing was impossible. So I was kicking a ball around from the age of 5 or 6, and that kind of done me. That kind of done me well because I was signed on at Chelsea as a youngster, Chelsea Football Club over in the UK. Obviously, for people that don't know, as a youngster, and as I progressed, I got to a reasonable standard where I was on the books of some of the major Premier League clubs in the United Kingdom for a number of years as a teenager. And that kind of led to me actually being scouted by Aston Villa, who were in the Premier League at the time. And I've got a funny little story. It isn't funny, but I can laugh about it now. But it was the beginning and the end of my career in the football. So my main hobby was football, mate. I did that all day, every day.
Were you a gamer back then?
No, hell no. I think, as I remember it, so I grew up in, the wage for army personnel has never been great, as you will attest to, Boydie. Now, I grew up in that kind of environment where money was tight, everything was hard, always away. Mum would have to have 3 jobs, separate jobs. And I remember them one year. My mum was working 4 jobs to buy me the very brand new, the first version of, is it the Sega Mega Drive? I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah,
and,
I do.
You had like Sonic the Hedgehog and bloody I don't even know what else was. I think it was Sonic and something else on there anyway. It was a football game. I can't remember what it was now, but mate, that was it. I was on that. That was the only kind of time that I would play. Now, bearing in mind, back when I was little, so you're talking in the early 1994, 95 type, 96 type years, that gaming had only just really begun. You had the SNESes, Super Nintendos, you had the Ataris, the Commodore Amigas, all that kind of shit. You could build bloody programming on like 200 lines on on a machine that made loads of noises and just flashed on the screen at you, kind of thing. So a majority of that of my time was actually just spent on football. So no, I wasn't a gamer at all, not really.
Question there from Mark Kelmo, 8783. What year was that roughly when you was at Villa?
So, good question. I understand exactly why you've asked that, and it is checkable. So, so 1996 to 97 was the year I was scouted by Aston Villa, and there's a story there with the then, well, previous at the time England manager Graham Taylor. He tried to scout me at another club years gone by, and he ended up down at Watford, Graham Taylor. And I was trialing with Aston Villa, and I was in between there and Watford. And I remember going down to Watford, and you had Luther at the time, who was the assistant manager to Graham Taylor at Watford. And I was in pre-season in digs as a little boy, staying in some stranger's house who was feeding me twice a day, and spending all of my time over on the pitch trying to win myself a contract at the age of 17. So, yeah, 96 to 97 was the years that I was in and around some of the big names.
And you told me before the show, I unlocked a lot of Silver Fox lore before the show while we were chatting. But what ended up happening with that footy career?
Well, this is the funny bit. You may find this funny. I find it funny now, but at the time it was like bloody life ending. So
It would have been.
I was 17 years old. So this was in 96, 97. I remember it clear as day. Aston Villa were about to offer me a contract. And I've been away just before pre-season. So you're talking in the May, June time. And I'd been outstanding. I'd scored something like 42 goals the previous season from right wing, which is unheard of. It was a kind of around the time that Lee Hendry was on the scene at Aston Villa, breaking into the England squad and things like that. So there were some big names back then. But what happened was I was about to be offered a contract, and stupidly, as young idiot teenagers do, when you think you're the dog's bollocks, I was on a push bike and near my home address, and I was riding down a long hill near me, and oh, mate, it's so stupid, right? So there was a car in front of me, and an old boy was driving it, an old guy was driving it, and he must have been doing about 15 to 20 miles an hour. So I decided, like the dick I was back then, that this wasn't acceptable, and I'd overtake him, or tried to overtake him with my push bike, which I did. I overtook him. The only problem was it looked all clear until I got round him and realised the car was about to turn a corner at the bottom of the hill. And I slammed on my brakes, handheld brakes, and they snapped. So I was now skidding at the fastest ever rate I'd ever seen. I've never even seen nothing like it in my life. Down this hill, I must have been doing 30, 40 miles an hour on a push bike. That's how fast I was going on that bloody thing at the time. And my bike hit a BMW turning a corner, the front end of it. The problem with that was not only was the impact quite severe, but a car that was coming the other way also hit me and squashed me into the car I'd already hit. So all I remember, right, is my head, I woke up, sat up on the bike. This is how mad it was, right? And I had a bike called a Marin back then, which was massive aluminium frames, like huge, thick frames. And I looked down, and my head was resting on a windscreen that was cracked. I didn't even register that. I looked down, and my knee was inside the wing of this BMW. And it was on touching the metal of the engine. So the next thing I know, I look down and I can't quite see my knee because of all the metal and everything. And anyway, I managed to push myself away from this car. The other car had moved away at the time, the one from behind me. And all I remember is trying to stand my leg on the ground and it just give way and I was knocked out on the floor. The next thing I know, I was in hospital with my leg raised in kind of a triangular motion, covered in plast from my hip down to my ankle. And I was on loads of drugs. I was out of it. And I can remember a doctor saying to my mum and dad, who were crying, he will never play football again. And then that was me done. I was out of it again. Apparently I didn't wake up for another 2 days. And then I went through an 18-month rehab where I was told I would never play football again. I'd never be able to, pretty much would lose the use of my right leg. And what had actually happened was all of my ligaments and tendons on my right knee had been ripped off and severed. So there was nothing holding my lower leg together on the knee side of it. Mm-hmm. So I had a very, very, at the time, bearing in mind at the time, all of this regenerating ligaments and fucking tendons and stuff, that was unheard of back then. You're talking 1997, right? And I had a wonderful doctor called Dr. Weatherall. He's probably dead now, but I'd never forget him. And he looked at me and said, "You're such a young age. I'm going to do something that I hope I can pull off. I've only ever tried it once. It is experimental." And somehow he managed to get the ligaments and tendons rebuilt and pinned back on my right knee. So I still walk on it today. I can still kick a ball on it today. That's how good a job he did. So, but my football career was well and truly over. Straight away, it all gone. And I received a letter from Graham Taylor, who was the ex-England manager, after the incident, saying to him, "Look, your career's over. You're going to have to now focus, if you want to stay in football, on coaching." But at that age, imagine that you've been told you're going to make it. You've just about to be offered a contract at a Premier League club, and it's suddenly overnight all taken away, and I was left with nothing.
Were your parents a big help? Particularly, I'm going to guess your father might have been able to give you some good life advice there.
Do you know what? This is where I will give all credit that is due to my parents. Now, they were hard parents, right? They were very hard people.
Nothing wrong with that, mate. My grandmother was a hard old duck as well, but I look back at her now with nothing but love.
Absolutely, mate. I mean, my dad and mum wasn't there every day crying, going, "Oh, blah, blah." But what they were, my dad had already installed into me, no matter what in life, you don't give up. You never give up. And when the doctor said you'll never walk properly again, you might have, have to have significant further surgeries on your knee. You'll never kick a ball again, blah, blah, blah. I spent 18 months in plaster. After that, I spent the next year trying to prove the doctor's wrong. And I actually managed to get it to a point where it is stronger than it ever was before the accident. So I credit that to my parents, without a doubt.
This kind of leads into this next one. So how did growing up in a military household shape the way you see discipline and responsibility today?
Well, I mean, when you're brought up where in a bearing in mind my grandparents, all my family are ex-military, all of them. My nan and granddad both fought in World War II. My grandmother taught our late Queen to drive. My granddad was in the Scottish Guards. He got shot in World War II. He survived. My dad obviously served for many years. So when you're brought up around that, all I ever wanted to do was be an honourable individual where nothing but discipline, honour, respect, and all that type of attribute type stuff. That was how I lived my life. Even to today, that's how I live my life now. So if you will come to me and ask me something, I'll either not answer it because you're not going to like the answer, or I will just tell you the harsh truth. I won't dress it up. I will tell you exactly what the score is.
It's kind of funny you say that. It was something I said again in the pre-show before we were chatting, and I've always wondered how you tolerate me, because other than the fact that we both have served our country in our respective ways, there's not a lot in common. You're a very organized and a very serious kind of guy for the most part, and I'm laid back. But it's our core values, I think, that have bonded us together over the years, and I'm exactly the same. If a spade's a spade, just call it a fucking spade. Don't try and tell me it's something fucking else. Just be direct and blunt, and get to the fucking point.
Look, honesty is the key. Look, at the end of the day, right? Life's too short for bullshit. And when you get to like now, my stage of life now, having gone through all of the things I've gone through in my life, it life is literally it could be gone in a second, and you wouldn't
Yeah,
know. You wouldn't know anything about it. It'd be gone. So there's no time to fuck around.
yep,
You just tell it as it is. You may offend people, you may hurt people, you may upset people, but if you've stuck to the truth, if you've stuck to what's right by your reckoning, that's all you can do.
100%. So, at what point did you realise public service wasn't just an interest but a calling? So, yeah, you've had this dream job, which pretty much, as a young kid in the UK, being a professional footballer would be literally one of the best jobs that any kid could dream of, and that's been snatched away from you through circumstances semi out of your control. And when did you realise that you were? Because obviously you were quite limited in what you could do, because that would have taken a lot of rehab time to fully recover from an injury like that.
Well, I mean, it took me 18 months in plaster in two different various forms of plaster, one straight, one up and down, blah, 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 both at 8 to 10 months each. I then had rehab for a year where I was just working every single day for 6, 8 hours a day in a swimming pool on my own choice, that is down in a public swimming pool, just to prove that I could get that shit back and even better than it was before. And I actually, after all of that, I actually tried to join the Marines. I was going to go the same way as all of my ancestors and parents before, and I was going to go join up. And I did actually start the process. I wanted to join the Marines. So I sat the BARB test, which is a test you've got to set your basic test in. It's called the BARB test over in the UK. So I sat that, scored pretty highly. And I was basically told I could pretty much have any kind of role if I wanted to select whatever that may be. And they said, "What do you want to be?" I said, "Like, I want to be a Marine." And I very stupidly decided to not inform them immediately that I had this knee problem. So anyway, I'd gone through, done all the scoring, got quite far into the recruitment process, went for the medical, and of course, that's where I got undone. They looked at it, and I remember
You would have had some massive scars. It would have been such an easy. What the hell happened to your knee, bro?
yeah. So well, the scar I've got is literally, where's my camcorder? Yeah, it's about that big on my
Yeah.
right leg. So it goes over the knee and down a little bit, basically about 5 inches. But where it was stapled together, right? And so you can't miss the staple marks as well. You've got the scar and the staples. So anyway, a long story short, the medic took one look at me and said, "There's no way." The words I remember them clear as day. "There is no way your leg is going to hold up to jumping out of helicopters. So you're barred." And I went, I was like, "What do you mean I'm barred? You're barred from all armed forces." so I was like, okay, so what does that leave me with then? So I left, and then that's when I joined the police. So, yeah. Otherwise, I'd have been a Marine. So there you go.
Was there ever a moment when you questioned that joining the police force?
Oh, not at all. I think, okay, so it wasn't ever my first choice doing what I did. So I, of course, I look back and think what life could have been as a footballer.
Yep.
Christ, that could have been great. All right, that didn't work out. What would life have been like in the Marines? And I had going into it, my dad was Irish Rangers, and then they amalgamated, and he became a Green Jacket at that point, down in Dover, so where I lived at the time. So our army barracks was situated in Dover, and Burgoyne Heights in Dover. So they were Green Jackets at the time. Then Paras came into town, and Green Jackets went elsewhere. So my dad basically moved from the Irish Rangers to the Green Jackets, and that he saw out the rest of his career in the army there, and then he retired. Back to what was the original question you just asked there, buddy?
Was there a moment when you ever questioned the decision to join the
join? Right, no. So at that point, I kind of felt it was my third best option. And I've always been one to set goals. I've always been one. There's always a plan. So
why the police though? Why the police?
Well, to be honest, do you want my honest answer? This is what I said in my interview. I said to drive fast cars and to beat people up legally. That's what I said to them, and they laughed. They laughed at me, and the only questions they asked me was around my football career. so I was like, I think I'm all right here. And they said that the one question they did say to me, they took it as a joke, my answer the first time, which was good job they did. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been in it without a doubt. I kind of realized quite quickly when they just didn't ask me any questions about anything else other than football. And then the last thing they said to me was, well, if you don't get in this time, what are you going to do? I said, I'll be back here in 6 months' time. You'll be seeing me in 6 months' time. They started laughing. They shook me hand and said, right, we'll see you shortly. And that was it. So, yeah, there you go. That's
happened. Awesome. That's awesome. Let me just go back to the next one. So, how old were you when you entered into the police force?
23.
Yep. What were you doing during that time? Just rehab, or did you have another job, or?
No, I was working in pubs and clubs and stuff for a while, and I literally didn't really do anything. I had a year of me being a dick, going, my life's over. What am I going to do? Is it worth even being here? That type of shit. I remember sitting there going, is it fucking worth me living anymore? You ask yourself those questions when all that's happened to you. So, and then 5 minutes later, I said, don't be a dick. You know exactly why you're here. Go and do something productive with your life. So that was me cracking on after that.
Sorry, I just need to clarify something here. Football career would have been about the same, wouldn't it? Beating people up legally. Bro, have you ever watched fucking soccer? They don't beat shit up. They fucking just get tripped over and then they act like they're fucking.
Yeah. I was quite good at diving. So I was small and fast. At the time, I was quite small and fast and not fully developed. So someone come near me, I knew exactly how to win fouls immediately all the time. So there you go.
So you started off as just a regular paddy, I'm guessing. Just a beat cop.
Yeah, absolutely. Every police officer, when you start, has to start in the same place. You're a probationer for 2 years. You can be kicked out any time in the UK within that 2 year probationary period. You must pass. When I was there, in my opinion, standards have massively gone down now. But I had to do bleep tests every month, every week actually.
Bleep tests.
Oh, shuttle runs testing.
Bleep tests. Yep. Bleep tests. Yeah.
I
hate those. I hate those things with
mate,
passion.
I was fit as fuck, so I didn't care. I was like hitting. I was right in the top 1%. I was killing it. I was on level 14 to 15. I was running.
Mate, I could get to the high 7s, maybe the low 8s. Was about my for a beep test. I was never fast, but I saw blokes who could do the high fucking numbers like you, and they were literally just running in a circle. There was no running backwards and forwards.
Oh yeah,
because there was no time. Sprinting. It was the most insane shit I've ever seen.
Level 13 to 15 is pure sprint. You don't stop. Pure sprint, and you are fucked. It all depends how good your I'm
having a PTSD moment. Fucking thinking about beep tests. I fucking hate them.
There is a technique you can use before level like 11, and you just time it, and as your foot hits the line is the time to turn on the beep. So as long as you stage it and you like going right 1, 2, and as long as you do it in that method, you can't really fail it. But the problem with it is now I've heard rumors. This to me is shocking, absolutely shocking, right? But I've heard rumors now that so when I was coming out of the job, they'd lowered it down to like level 7 or something stupid. And I'm like, fuck off. Hold on. So when I joined, you had to be a certain height. You had to be fit, physically fit, and you were tested. You had to pass intelligence tests every fucking month. If you failed 1 of 3 tests, you were gone, right? You had high standards to which people were shitting themselves. Like proper athlete people were shitting themselves, whether they'd even passed the physical. But at that point, when I first hit my section, I was met with like even the old boys were strong as fuck. Strong blokes, 6 foot plus, mostly blokes. Yes, there was a few women at the time, but it was nowhere near like it is now. And I'm not for 1 minute saying that women can't do the job, because they definitely can. I've worked with a lot of very good women. But what I'm talking about is when I joined, it was very, very, very different. It was mostly men, and it was females were mostly in administrative roles. There was only a couple of female cops on the beat at the time. That's what it was when I joined. But very quickly, it turned into a very different scenario very, very quickly.
That's across the board in a lot of areas.
But it happened in the armed forces. Yeah, it happened in the armed forces. It happened in the fire brigade. It happened in the police. And I'm not talking about male, female. I'm talking about males were starting to get a job when they were like 5 stone overweight because they could hit level 7. And I'm sitting there going, fucking hell, you're a disgrace. Not only are you a disgrace, but if I'm in the shit and I'm relying on you, you ain't going to even fucking get there, let alone be able to do anything by the time you do get there. So it's not a sex thing. It's purely about a physical fitness thing.
Yeah.
And I'm so disappointed the way things have gone, like over the years. I mean, look, what happened? I'll probably get some hate for this, but look, I've always spoken as I see it. All right. I'm not afraid to say that. I'm not afraid to dance around these subjects. I'll tell you straight. If you're fit enough for the job, I don't give a fuck what race you are, what color you are. I don't care what sex you are. I don't care what your sexuality is. If you're fit for the job, you do the fucking job. Right? Yeah. That's it. None of the other shit matters.
No. But they've got to stop changing to allow more people to meet it. No, you've got to have a benchmark. You've got to have a minimum standard. And if you can't meet it, I'm sorry, life sucks. You get out to do something else.
But the problem was they started to lower and make provisions for people who couldn't pass it. And that is, look, if you want to, I always go back to this, right? I'll ask this to everybody in chat, anyone that ever watches this episode. Answer this simple question. If your child or your partner or yourself was in deep shit, would you want somebody coming to you that fucking could handle the business, or would you want someone coming to you who's going to not get there or get there late, sit there and go, yes, sir, no, sir, what's going on here, or is scared to get involved and deal with the shit? What would you want?
Exactly. You want the best possible person.
Right. And unfortunately, towards the end of my career, if I was to say that, you would get the old, you're potentially on dodgy ground there. You could be perceived as racist or sexist or fuck off. Listen, if you can't do the fucking job because you're in a shit state, physical ability, you shouldn't fucking be in the job. And that goes that even goes for somebody who can physically meet the requirements, but has not got it about them to step in and deal with your shit. Do you know what? I'll give you an example. I can't give you a better example than this, right? It's how funny this is, right? I was once in my probation, I was called to a job once, right? And the information you get, the radio caller will give you the information and you will be dispatched to whatever job they're going to give you, right? The information I got was, as a new probationer, 100-person fight at a nightclub. All of our patrols at the time, I think we had about 9 to 11 PCs on at the time, right? And we were all dispatched everywhere else, right? I was the last patrol available. I just finished the job I'd been to. I was the only patrol available. And the information over the radio was 100-person fight. I said, is any backup coming? Any other units available? And I was told, well, we'll get there as soon as we can. Another patrol had to come from another county to get to where... Mate, it was done by the time I got there. Just shouted, there's no fucking way I can deal with 100 people. I can't deal with more than probably 3 people. I just shouted, right, who's getting nicked? And they all just ran. That's pretty much what happened. So at the end of the day, there was a massive, massive guy that I know of. I won't mention any names or anything like that. But there was a huge, massive man mountain of a guy who was on my section, right? I later find out one night there's a big fight kicking off in the town. He pulls up. The whole crowd that are fighting goes, "Oh fuck!" It's in the size of this guy. do you know what? Do you know what happens? He stood there, refused to get involved.
Wow.
And this is what I'm talking about around you've got to be mentally fit as well as physically
Yes.
fit enough to do the job. You
And
know? So
it's one of those unfortunate things. Someone said it in chat there. It's hard to screen for the character, and particularly something like the
yes, it
police,
is.
where they do. I know it's kind of different in the US. They have the private academies that do it, but even here in Australia, I think it's like a 6-month recruit training course. In the army, I did 3 months basic training as a recruit, and then 3 months specialist training. But even in just the general army, it's hard to screen for those people to get to the elite sort of units, and that's where those courses, the most famous one is probably the SEALs, Hell Week, and all the rest of it. But that's where you're looking for the people you're putting them into situations that a lot of people in today's world would be offended by the way that you get, borderline abused, because they're trying to make you crack. They're trying to get you to reveal how you handle in a situation of stress, and it's hard to find that stuff out about someone in a peacetime sort of environment, where there's no actual threat. You've got to do shit that might not actually be taken as politically correct and all the rest of it. You hear some of the horror stories from SAS courses and that, where they strip the guys naked and then they get the females in there, and the females just basically abuse them about because it's cold and all the rest of it, and that does certain things to them, to male anatomy, and the women just insult them. And even these hard guys, they crack because these, they're in a situation that they never dreamed that they would be in, and it's hard to do that for just your average everyday Paddy and your average everyday soldier, to identify those people.
Well, I mean, Darren P has just put in chat something I strongly agree with, completely agree with. There's an old saying: hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, and vice versa. Yeah, absolutely, mate. And that there is exactly where we are in the world today. Now, one thing I will come back at you with what you just said there is, once you're introduced to those type of roles, your first 2 years in probation, you're going to get into some shit. And that's where you will find out quite quickly, especially when you're being tutored, whether or not that individual is able mentally to deal with some of the stuff. You're always going to get into fights and shit like that. So the second you see someone who's new, you might let them off the first time by going, look, all right, you might not be used to this, but, there's a 6-foot guy over there, 6'5" guy over there, 15, 20 stone. You're 4 foot or 5 foot, 6, 7. You're bloody 11 stone.
How tall are you?
I'm 5'9".
You're 5'9", so you're not small, but you're average height.
Yeah, I'm average height. Yeah, but I've spent many years building my physique, so I was in the gym I've always been the healthy, fit guy. So muscular wise, I am quite big still.
Question from Dusty there. Thank you for the super chat, mate. Were you ever in a life or death situation in the police force?
Multiple times.
This is previous to your other stuff that we'll get into. I don't want to spoilers or anything, but as a general cop.
Yeah. I mean, all police officers are put into very, very dangerous situations. Just like if you're deployed in the army, every day can be dangerous. The difference with being a police officer is that you never know what you're going to get called to. You can't prepare for what you're going to get called to. And you could go from a simple shoplifting to a stabbing to a murder to a rape. You can go to all of those things in the space of 4 or 5 hours, and you have to approach all of them differently. So yeah, danger is just a daily thing. Being a police officer around the world, not just here, around the world. You show me a police force or tell me about a police force where there's no danger.
Yeah.
There ain't one. You're always getting called to stabbings. Stabbings are massive these days, everywhere, all over every country.
This is jumping a question, but I think it's a good segue to this one. When you're working serious crimes, like, how do you mentally separate the job from your personal life? It's something I've said many a time in the past, and I will always say it because a lot of people, military veterans, are kind of on this weird pedestal where everyone's well aware of us, and for the most part they've got a good reputation regardless of whether we should be or shouldn't be in certain wars, but they're kind of given almost a get out of jail free card. But the way I described it was, I did one deployment, and that was to Somalia. If you got your bingo cards out, you can cross that one off. But for the whole 5 months that we were there, I spent 2 weeks on a ship traveling over there, the HMAS Tobruk or the Jarvis Bay. I can never remember which one it was. So we were in training mode before we left. We were in training mode the whole ship ride there. And then when we were in country, we were in country. Other than 3 days off in Mombasa in Kenya, I was in the game 24/7 every day. Even at barracks, my rifle was always within arm's reach. I was in the mode. And then when we got back, that was the end of the deployment. Cops, on the other hand, it's something that, and there are certain cops who do deserve criticism, but the one thing I always try to remind people, I had an argument with a mate of mine recently. A cop here in Australia got done for some pretty fucked up shit. But I said to him, at the same time, you've got to remember the stuff that these people go through on a daily basis. They can go from kissing the wife and kids goodbye to attending a double homicide, where a father has killed his wife and children in a gruesome fucking manner, and then F11'd himself. And then after that, they come home and they've just got to live a normal life. It boggles my mind, mate. How did you manage that?
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to tell you a couple of scenarios, a couple of stories that happened whilst I was in. This is before I went into specialist roles. All right. So the specialist stuff is what I think most people are really interested about. We'll get into that later. But let me tell you how dangerous certain situations were that when I was in. All right. So this is before you had Taser. Taser was kind of newish halfway through my career. And yes, I was Taser trained. Yes, I did carry what you call them, Section 5 firearms, Section 1 firearms, and all the rest of it, some of the stuff. But anyway, we won't get into all that kind of section shit. But anyway, what I will tell you is that I remember going to a sudden death, right? And in the UK, what that means is someone's died. It's not potentially not suspicious. A normal cop will just get called. You'll have to make a determination, get the the mortician, everything else sorted out, the family informed, and blah blah blah. An hour after that, I went to a stabbing. An hour after that, or maybe 2 hours after that, I think it might have been. I was a bit later on in my career. This was right, so early years still. I was with a new probationer, a female probationer, a really good girl, and really good at the job, really enthusiastic. And we'd had some information to say to us, there's a guy running around a certain area with a knife. He's hit someone with a baseball bat, and he's now got a cleaver in his hand in a street, a public street, and he's threatening to stab people, right? So we get called. Now, at this point, you become very experienced within the first 2 to 3 years of being on the street. You become very quickly aware of a lot of stuff. Anyway, so we track this guy down. We see him going into a house, and there was only me and this young girl with me, right? So we go through the door, knock on the door, and he seems he's only about 5'4", so quite a small guy, about 30-year-old, by himself. He seemed very, very polite, very calm, very polite. I said, "Hello, mate. I need to come in and talk to you." So we go through the door, and the front room that we were led into is one of those bed sit things, right? So we had a sofa, and then he had a couple of pictures on the wall and a TV in a corner, and that was pretty much it. And I said to the female that was, I said, "Look, go on, you deal with this. I'll be right here. You deal with this. Ask him the questions you want to ask him. We'll make a determination, and I'll be right next to you the whole time," which was what my job was as a tutor at the time, right? So she asked him some questions, and he's clearly bluffing it, saying, "No, that weren't me. Nothing doing me." Blah blah blah. So she turned around to give me the information, right? And now we're talking a matter of 2 feet. Now, luckily, I've been very aware at this point of where to stand, what not to look at, i.e. turn your back to the wall, all this kind of stuff, right? So my back is to a wall. I can see everything. I've got the whole area covered. I can see him. I can see her.
What are you, just to put this in perspective as well, for being UK police, what weapons are you carrying at this time?
At this time, I only had CS gas on me.
Yeah.
So I didn't have Parva come in later, but CS gas on me.
Did you have a baton at all?
Yeah, we had a metal baton. So
yeah, we had a baton and pepper spray.
Yeah. Pepper spray, basically pepper spray. So anyway, I see him in the split second this has happened. He's 2 foot away from her and he's 3 foot away from me. Within a split second, he has turned, touched the wall in front of him where a picture was. Behind the picture was this fucking cleaver. And he turned around and picked it up and he was like this in his hand, looking at me. And I said to him, at this point, I've dealt with this a lot, these type of things. I said to him, mate, you got 2 options. Put the fucking thing down now or you're going to get hurt. And he looked at me and he was like, he dropped it on the ground. I said, good fucking choice. But you see, the fact is, he could have very well hit her or me from that distance. But the key to this, as an experienced cop at the time and moving through the years I've done, is you've got to keep your cool. You cannot panic. If you panic, you are in deep shit. And
your best weapon in most cases is your mouth.
Your mouth, absolutely. Yeah, I mean the amount of times I have seen my colleagues and me talk down irate big groups of people who were clearly able to cause significant damage to human and to property, and just talk to them, and everything has been cool. They've even come in the van, they've gone in the cell, they were no problem because they've been talked to with a bit of respect and told firmly what the score is. That's all a lot of people want.
That's a big thing as well, because yes, there's some people with genuine mental illness, but in a lot of cases, these are just average people who've just had a bad fucking day. And
that's right.
A bad day has led to some really bad decisions that they need to be held accountable for. But yeah, do
you know what?
Obviously, there's tiers. You know, anything involving children, women, that's kind of animals is kind of unforgivable sort of stuff. But the average person, it could be they've just had a really bad day and something's just snapped in their brain.
Yeah, I mean the amount of time. I'll tell you this now. One of the truest sayings I was taught, and I've always repeated, is, and I've seen it firsthand. Some of the best people in the world have one bad day and make a stupid decision that puts their whole life in a different perspective. But I've seen pieces of shit have very many bad days and do something good once in a while. So the fact of the matter is, look, everyone's capable of having that bad day. Even me, even everyone. There are, to answer the original question, there are 6 times where I didn't think I was coming home. 6 times. And in my career. And I mean, generally, me going with all that experience, going, I cannot fucking see a way I'm getting home. I can't see a way I'm getting out of this. And at that point, I'll talk about how to deal with that later on, how I dealt with it. But that's life on the street as a general PC, which every one of us have to go through.
So how long were you a general Paddy for?
Well, you see, I always wanted to be a detective, so I got on the program very, very quickly. So one of the things I realized quite quickly was, if you want to go the detective route, then you need to be producing as a police uniformed officer. You need to be producing very good paperwork, so that when you did arrest somebody for something that was going to go to CID or something upstairs to the major squads, burglary squad or whatever it would have been at the time, then your paperwork needs to be good. And if your paperwork's good and there's no issues for them to come back with, you get noticed quite quickly by the sergeants and the inspectors. So I'd always made it very, very clear that's the route I wanted to take. And within 4 years, so that's 2 years after probation, by the 4th year, I was already on the detective program. They saw something in me. I was definitely a detective.
And you ended up in the basically major crime murder squad.
Yeah, so there's loads of different names for this across the world, but basically within the UK, you have something called major crime. And that is basically a large series of detectives across the whole of the UK, have their own separate forces, have their own major crime departments, and they deal with murder, serious rape. When I say serious rape, I mean stranger rapes and stuff like that. They only deal with the most serious of offences, and I was quite fortunate with my attitude and the way I was brought up and my determination of where I wanted to be, that I was always going to be at that level at some point. It was just a case of how quick I could get there. So what I used to do was I used to basically make sure that if a big job was kicking off, I would go, I'm going. That's for me. I'm heading. And of course, at that point, I got noticed quite quickly and was taken in. I think around 2008, 2009.
Mm-hmm.
I managed to get the role of major crime role detective, and I spent a long time, well, quite a bit of time there, vastly being experienced and stuff.
Now, just quickly, everyone, I'm just about to start a giveaway in chat. It's going to go for 90 minutes. Follow the instructions. Everyone can win, has a chance of winning one of 8 games. So good luck. Okay. How long were you in the major crimes unit for?
So I was on and off. So I was working with them on jobs before. So I was CID for a long time, for a few years. And every time a big job used to kick off, they would sometimes select what they felt good detectives who were able to handle that type of stuff. You would get seconded over there. So I was seconded on a number of jobs, and then got to work with a lot of I've got to say now, some of the very best detectives in the UK, without a doubt, probably within the world. Some of them are so fucking good. The levels of expertise, the knowledge around what was called CPIA, which is the rules and legislations, pace.
So was this in Scotland Yard, or was this just
no? So Scotland Yard's in the Met. I was an outside force. I was a county force. I never joined the Met. I got to work with the Met over a number of incidents. But a lot of that comes later on when you're in major specialist roles. But in terms of major crime, yes, we did work with the Met on a number of cases, and I never actually got to work with a flying squad, but they were Met based anyway. But like I say, the real good stuff was after that.
Just quickly, everyone, all you need to do is type !raffle and choose number 1 to 5 to enter the raffle. Because you've been in here watching, you've all started accruing points. So yeah, just like LSR did there. Type !raffle space and then the number of tickets you want. So good luck and get in there. Did you work again? This is something you can't talk about. Did you work on any cases that might be familiar to people in the UK?
Quite a few, yeah. You would have heard of quite a few of them on news, international news, or local news, or BBC News, ITV back then news, Channel 4, whatever. All some of the major incidents, should we say, before we talk about terrorist stuff, before we get into that, which is the highest level. Yeah, so some of those investigations were national, international, yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for the gift subs there, Miss Patty. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. That must have been really fucking hard, man. Yeah, you're basically getting into the worst of society.
Well, I mean, you're definitely dealing with some of the worst people at that level, some of the worst people around, because these are people that would not hesitate but to take your life. Now, there's different levels of that. Like you say, you can have. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like we said before, you can get into those one-off situations. I mean, a lot of them, to be fair, with domestic type murders and stuff, where husband wife been together many years, pissed each other off over many years, and
it's groovy, baby.
Who's that? Facility. Yeah, hello, buddy. How you doing? Hope you're well. So yeah, and then you go all the way up to like the mass murders and stuff like that. So that are on an international stage and stuff. So
okay, we're starting to get into the nitty gritty now, folks. What's something that people fundamentally misunderstand about detectives or murder squads?
There's a lot of work. Some of the investigations that I was on in that role went on for years. I mean, years. You're talking. I mean, I remember there was investigations from 15 years ago that something called cold case teams. So anything that's over a certain period of time will be allocated to something called a cold case team, which basically deal with historic stuff. You know, and there was ongoing investigations from 15, 20 years ago in some of the stuff that was going on in the offices I worked. There was, you know, some of the major unsolved stuff going on. A lot of what I did to begin with was the brand new, just happened stuff. Like, you know, whatever may have happened. I won't go into specific details, but obviously we're talking murders here. So something happens overnight. Our team is deployed. We will be there from the onset, taking over from the scenes and dealing with everything, moving on investigation wise after that, forensics, the lot, you know. And that's quite a full on process. I mean, you could be stuck on that with infinite overtime for months at a time. I mean, I've traveled the country, been on many investigations that have taken me months and months away from family, loved ones. You know, and the actual impact of that over a long period of time it doesn't hit you at first, because at first it's all exciting, it's all new, but years of doing that, it does take its toll. And I think people don't understand unless you've done a role. It's like going to war or being in the army, being deployed somewhere.
Mhm.
You will never truly understand what that is like until you are placed in that position yourself. Now, you know,
Were you married or seeing someone at this time?
I was married. Yeah, I was married at the time. Yeah,
That's got to be hard, man.
very hard with 2 children as well. Yeah, very hard. I spent 12, 15 years of intermittently being away, staying in hotels, wherever I was, traveling wherever I was with teams to go and, you know, hunt people down or find the missing evidence, or, you know, interview people around these things or whatever the case may be, you know. So yeah, I spent a lot of time away, a lot of time.
It's one of the things that a lot of people don't think about is it's not just the impact on the person who is serving in that job, but it's also the impact on the family, on the
Oh,
missus, on the
definitely.
kids. You
Yeah,
know, when you
definitely,
come home
definitely.
and it's not like you've come home from a normal job. How was your day, love? Um, sometimes you just don't want to talk about it.
Well, I mean, don't forget, we're
Sometimes you
talking.
can't talk about it.
Well, I couldn't talk about it. I mean, you're talking about information tactically that cannot get out, that the press haven't got.
Yeah.
Information that we hold back so that we can detect crime. You know, we can find these individuals. You never give away your tactics. You give away little bits that the public can be aware of. But if you give it all away, Christ, the advantage is definitely with the offender. So, and bearing in mind, you don't also realise the gravity of the availability of tactics that you have at your disposal. The things I got up to, you would not believe. Some of the stuff I have done, you would definitely not believe. I could tell you now, and the chat will think, "Oh, James Bond there. Fuck me, he's done that. He's had a fuck." Nah, that's in a movie. That is. Trust me, it happens. It fucking happens. At certain levels, it happens.
There's a certain point. I was reading an article yesterday, and as you know, we had a very bad incident here in Australia
Mm.
in last month,
Yeah, yeah,
and there was an article in the Age, I think, was the newspaper, and it was someone basically saying that they were at a meeting of Jewish people talking about the attack that happened, and it was like a open mic. People could raise anything, and they'll talk about just anti-Semitism in general. And this female stood up and said that she'd been at a wedding recently, and she was talking with a guy, and the subject of her being Jewish came up, and the guy said to her, do you really believe the Holocaust happened? Because it sounds like a really good script for a movie. And that popped into my head then, because pretty much for all of these sorts of things, yeah, unless you're talking about sci-fi and mystical horror, these things that have come up as ideas because more than likely they've happened to someone. There's someone
Mhm.
out there who's had these experiences that the rest of us look at and just go, that's fucking bullshit. It has to be bullshit. Yeah, that's a movie script. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a movie
yeah.
script because it genuinely did fucking happen to someone somewhere. And what's his name? The guy who wrote James Bond,
Fleming.
he based that all on real life shit.
Well, put it this way: why do you think some of the best authors that have ever lived have been within those roles that they have written a book about? Why? Because they've actually seen it firsthand. They've experienced it firsthand. They know the operational awareness that is needed. They know what you can and can't do, what you can and can't get away with, and the things that actually.
Look at the guy in Lord of the Rings. What's his name? Who played Saruman?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And when they were doing the movie, and he was talking about getting stabbed, and he said to the director, "Well, no, that's not actually how stabbing someone is." Because he had been a OSC, is it? OSC? The prelude to fucking one of the UK Special Forces. But what's his name? Someone in chat. What's the name of the actor? Christopher.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I forget his last name.
Yeah, and that guy's lived a life, and they reckon the director, whatever his name is, Christopher Lee, that's it. OSS, thank you. And they reckon the director of the movie, his face just kind of went pale because he was describing how someone actually sounds when they're stabbed in the lungs or something, the gurgling and that. And it was like,
oh mate, I've been there and heard that, mate. Yeah, I've heard that. That's true. Yeah, there's loads of stuff. Yeah. You'd be surprised what the body can do. I tell you as well. And
that's why you'd be surprised at what the body can survive as well. Look at the White Death hitting the fucking head with a fucking exploding ammo, and he survived it. So you just never know. You'd never know what's going to happen. Did that role, the Murder Squad or the Major Crimes, did that role change how you see people, for better or worse?
You don't really, when you're going through this stuff, you don't really see the change in you until many years later. What I learned quite quickly was cynicism. So you do go through a point where you think, oh, that's just bullshit. Everyone's bollocks. Everyone's talking bollocks. You can't trust anyone. They all fucking lie. Blah, 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 blah. Right. And that is after years and years of working with people that have tried every trick in the fucking book, and you've caught them out every fucking time. I mean, you get to the point where obviously we'll talk about training and stuff later on. There is specific courses that if you are part of certain units or you've been selected to go on, that you become more aware of your surroundings. You're able to read people a lot better. I won't go into the ins and outs of that. I think you know what I'm talking about. But there are certain things you can learn, such as tradecraft, that you were taught, that you were then expected to go away and train upon over many years to do things so that you can read situations and have some of the best technology around to help you understand that. But change-wise, it affected me towards the end of my career mainly. But I was very driven and focused until one day the lid come off the bottle. And I can go into that a bit later around PTSD. So
yeah. You in the bio for this thing, you've been involved in some of the most confronting incidents the UK has faced. How do you prepare mentally for environments like that? So we're starting to get into the next section of your career. So we might back it up actually a bit. So you were in the Major Crimes Unit for, I think you said, about 15 years?
Well, no, I was in CID for a lot of years and worked in Major Crime on and off throughout those years, and obviously went fully over to Major Crime in 2008, 2009. I came out of there very quickly within a year and a half because I then moved on to my new role, my next role, which is what you're focused on, counterterrorism.
So talk us through as much as you can of what happened for this to occur.
Well, I kind of like to think that well, put it this way: you've heard my background, you've heard how I was raised, how I was brought up. If you have to have an ego of some description at those levels, you have to believe and feel that you are the best of the best. To then go on to be confident enough to produce results continually, to catch those that can't be caught, to find the evidence by by means that.
Did you get any awards when you were a cop?
Oh, I got loads of. I got quite a few awards. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So you were a bit of a high flyer, a bit of a gun.
I
No
suppose
pun intended.
I suppose you could probably say that I wanted to be the best at what I was doing. I wanted to be the best detective in the county, in the country. Of course I did. There's no way of measuring that, and I'm not going to say that I was, but what I can say is that I've got a very, very strong record, and conviction rate and everything else. So I always.
And you would have had performance reviews. You would have had performance reviews as well.
Oh, you have them every year. So yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, it was always about being the very best I could have ever been at anything. I never went home until the job was done. If there was a person missing, like a young girl, for instance, being kidnapped or something, which is another thing that I've been involved in, some people would go out. I'd stay. I would be in the woods searching with dogs and helicopters till fucking the next day if need be, or the week later, or whatever the case may be. So you've got to have a solid determination to really make a difference. And it was brought up in my life that if you haven't got that, then don't fucking bother doing that type of work. Any type of work. Don't bother doing it unless you're going to be the best. That's how I was brought up. Whether you ever are the best is a different matter. but at the end of the day, you if you're producing result after result year in, year out, you're going to think you're up there, aren't you? So anyway, moving on from that, I then get approached, and counter-terrorism comes into view. And that there is where everything changed for me. My whole life changed, completely changed. I was exposed to things that are just at such a high level that it blew my mind to some degree. And I can't even try to normalize some of what I've been involved in, because if I was to try and regurgitate some of that stuff now, most of you in chat would be thinking that's in a movie, as we discussed earlier. That's in a movie. What, is this fantasy? Some of the stuff that's available, some of the technological advances right now, you would not fucking believe. Put it that way.
If people even just somewhat aware, they probably wouldn't be that surprised. Where we saw the stuff come out with the WikiLeaks, with the technology wise.
Absolutely.
Pretty much digital security is only goes so far unless you're borderline autistic with your security. They know everything about you. There's that Palmyra or something, Palmine. Well, I can't remember what it's called. Someone in chat will know. Network out there as well, and just it's insane. But going back, so can you say who it was that approached you?
That doesn't really matter. Just a member of that management.
No, not the person specifically, but the agency.
Well, you see, within the let me explain this. So I work for something called Special Branch. Now, Special Branch have a long documented history of working with, all I will say is different agencies, other agencies. All right. So if you can try to get a grip of what I'm actually talking about there, we're talking about at the very highest levels. You would work with your security services. You would work with all of the other agencies involved at the highest levels. All right. So Special Branch, sadly, is no longer. A couple of years ago, well, in Theresa May's time as Prime Minister, she made a decision to get rid of the name Special Branch. It's now called CTU, Counter-Terrorism Units. There's various different forms of that CTU stuff. I won't go into all of those different names and groups.
Just give me 1 sec. I'm just going to put the dogs out. They're getting a bit antsy.
Yeah. You do it, mate. I'll have a drink while we're there.
Yep. You can keep it talking, mate, because I can hear you.
Yeah, that's cool. So basically, I worked for Special Branch for a lot of years, and Special Branch was basically to deal with terrorism, counter-terrorism. And obviously, there's a lot of significant training that comes with that. My role had moved from being a detective to then becoming an intelligence officer. So intelligence is something that has a lot of very different meanings. It's a very, very different world, and you shift from having evidence to be able to prosecute somebody to gathering intelligence that sometimes never makes it into court or onto a trial in order to do the very best to protect the country. So pretty much that role was something that I was very proud of, something that I've was very fortunate enough to work with some very, very good people, some fantastic people over the years. And let's just say, had, I would say, the best years of my career working in that regard. And I know Boydie has got a load of questions here for this.
Well, the first question I want to have, mate, is say you get this tap on the shoulder. Would you be interested in coming and working for, some little secret 3-letter agency, most likely, or something like that? How does the conversation go when you get home to the missus?
She never knew. Only when I retired. So, and it's not an agency. It was Special
Wow.
Branch. So, you were given, let's just say, that's not a secret. Working for Special Branch is not a secret. Working for Counter-Terrorism is not a secret. The things you do inside of that can be. So, like I say, it's something that I was always very. I couldn't be on social media. I couldn't identify myself because in the intelligence world, a lot of what you do is covert. A lot of what you do is gathering the intelligence when they don't know you've gained the intelligence. But getting into and out of places. Some of the courses I've done is some crazy shit, some very crazy shit. So it's all about being able to take on that type of learning, being able to adapt. Adaptability is massive. Resilience is huge. The highest level of security, the highest levels of you being able to not divulge any information to anybody, work colleagues who may be not in that particular role or within a very small unit. A lot of the work I did was in a very small unit where even the person next to me, so we're talking a unit of 5 people, initially was my base. They didn't know what I did. So, and I didn't know what they did. That's how that works.
You've joined this unit post 2007, the 7/7 London bombings, and the world was in a very, very different place post 9/11.
Yes.
There was a lot of terror incidents flaring up.
Around the world.
All over the world. Australia, we had the Lint Cafe, we had the Bali bombing, even though that was in Indonesia, but it was a lot of Australians got hurt there. You guys had the 7/7. Then in your time in that unit, you had some pretty hair-raising incidents as well. The Glasgow, the Manchester Arena.
We had London Bridge. There were many. There were about I don't know, about 9, 10 that anyone around the world would have probably heard.
And the thing with this as well is they're the ones that people know of. There was obviously there's going to be other things where it's the same here in Australia. There's a lot of stuff that people just don't know got squashed or whatever.
There's always investigations. There's always intelligence work going on all day, every day around so many people. And let me put this out there, right? A lot of people were probably going to ask in chat, well, if you know about all of this and all of these cells that are in various countries, like for instance in our country, let me give you some facts that will blow some of your minds, and I can actually say this. I'm allowed to say this. I read that as well. Venomous snake, brilliant. So, at any one time within the UK, when I was there, the numbers changed now. There were anything between 60 to 70,000 cells operating potentially within the UK, right? That could be single people, that could be groups, that could be people from other countries that are trying to get into the country. That could be, there were so many. Now, think about this, right? If you've got that amount of people and your police and your security services have only got a finite amount of staff, how the hell Can you effectively manage that? Well, let me tell you how you manage that. So there's something called the threat, risk, and harm matrix. All right, that we used to go by, and that would be basically who was here now, who had the ambition, then who had the ability, who was ready to go with that ability in terms of have they got the materials to hand, and when are they posing that risk, right? So when you filter that down out of the top 10 to the top 200, the top 500 on those lists, that is the priority right there. Now, you can imagine how dangerous this is. So if you get the intel wrong and you turn around and go, they've not got the capability or they haven't got access to the equipment or the materials, whether that be chemicals, whether that be bombs, whether that be, improvised, whatever it may be, right? If you get that wrong and an attack happens, there is, that's not a good day out. A lot of people potentially lose their lives. So, and you're talking about across the whole country here, all of these people working together, going up the rank, going up the chain. And of course, the top of the chain is the security service, MI5, MI6. MI5 obviously was in the UK based stuff, and MI6 deal with international type stuff. So you've got all of this stuff going on every day, and that risk is managed by these people every fucking day. And there are so many things that no one will ever hear about things that have been detected and dealt with before they've even got anywhere near the capability by people in all of these roles, which is one of the roles that I held too. So it is scary when it is bloody scary. And all you ever hear in the public is there was an attack. The police or security service knew about it beforehand. They had information intelligence on it. Well, yeah, but you're dealing with massive numbers of people that there is not enough resource to deal with. I mean, if you think about surveillance, right?
Mm-hmm.
To put a surveillance package around one cell, right? You are talking night and day, vehicle, foot, motorbike, car, van, trained groups of intelligence operator. Now, I was trained in surveillance, right, as well. So you're talking about a big network there. That alone is like 10, 12 people straight away. Then you've got to have recovery groups, people who are on rest days to deal with the time off, or breaks for people to have a 10-hour, 8-hour, 6-hour sleep, whatever it may be. So you the most dangerous scenario is 24 cover, right? 24-hour cover for a specific period of time. It could be 3 months, it could be a year, right? Some of them I've worked on were like 3-4 years in the making, right? So you're taking away a whole group of specialist people for that one cell. And then you've got to have an operations room. You've got to have people on the intelligence side, detectives ready. You've got to have armed people ready, armed response ready to deal with that, from multiple different agencies and things. So the end of the day, for one cell, you've got all of that. How sustainable is that? And how can you even cover 60%, 80% of that? You're dealing with the top 10%. That's what you deal with. And that is all led by intelligence. So it's a very dangerous world out there.
It is an incredibly dangerous world. And like Darren said there in chat, this isn't just about the hot topic at the moment, which is generally Islamic terrorism. It's it's political. It's just someone who. Yep. I watched a video yesterday talking about, I think it's called Beider Menhof, the group in Germany that were German citizens attacking their own government. You can't just focus on one group because it comes from everywhere, left, right, up, down.
Well, what they do is they have specific teams set. So you have an inland team, for instance. You'd have an Islamic-based intelligence side. You'd have right-wing side, a left-wing side. You'd have all of these different groups, basically, that would take care of their main people in those slots, should we say, potential groups. So, but even that, I mean, the police are basically employed to police the streets. What my role became was the other side of all of that, the covert side of all of that, where it was intelligence based. It was to do specifically with those type of roles, dealing with specific agencies. So I was a police officer, I was a detective, but I was also an intelligence officer within those areas, which was my main role for my last, what would that have been, like 10 years in the job, roughly. So, yeah. I see you're dying to ask some sticky questions, mate. So
No, not really, mate. Yeah, I'm trying to let you, because I know there's stuff that you just can't talk about. So I'm letting you guide the conversation as much as possible. But yeah, there are things that pop into my head. Like, how many years were you doing this for?
about 11 years.
Hmm. What was it like when something bad happened and you guys felt like you dropped the ball?
We never did. Don't get me wrong, we all make mistakes. There's always, you know, missing intel. There's always bits you got to piece together. Luckily, in my time, the major stuff I was involved with were either reactively dealing with a major incident or on the other side of that, trying to prevent one from happening. So, um, this is where you work out. It's like being in the army because a lot of people in the chat will probably have some military experience here, right? And you will know what I mean by this, right? It's like, I'll tell you what it's like, right? The two sides of policing, detective evidence work, evidential work, and intelligence work are very, very fucking different. Very different. Now, I've been fortunate enough to work on both sides of the fence with that. So I understand firsthand how important evidence is. Without evidence, I can't lock anyone up, right? But without the intelligence, we can't prevent anything. And when the two sides merge, sometimes the evidence we can't give you from an intelligence perspective because it will give away too much information on really, really high end other stuff going on that we just have to keep secret or away from general consumption. All right. So when those two sides meet, it can get a little bit difficult. That's why you have disclosure teams in place to deal with the intricacies. Now, on a major incident, you have both sets working together. So the intelligence will go out and do the intelligence stuff and provide any evidence they can to the evidential team, who will then look if someone's caught or alive still at the end of the operation to send them to potentially court and prison. So, and I think that the big takeaway there really is how many terrorists do you actually see alive at the end of it in prison?
Not a lot.
Right. Well, there you go. So, you know, at the end of the day, you know, look, what I can tell you is this. I won't mention the name of the operation. It is internationally known, but I did work on the case. And when the shit hit the fan in London, did any of them survive? You're talking about a guy with knives strapped to his hands, running people over, stabbing whoever he could indiscriminately. What happened to him? It's public knowledge. So
How hard was it to do your job with politics in play?
for me, it wasn't that bad because my rank was a detective rank.
I'm talking more, not so much you individually, but as a unit, where we've seen a lot of it where, you know, it's a big issue we've got here in Australia at the moment. You know, the recent attack, one of those guys was known to ASIO,
Right.
and they, you know, from my completely unqualified, uneducated, unneeded position, is kind of like they dropped the fucking ball. That this guy had been investigated by ASIO, but they still let his father, who wasn't an Australian citizen, legally own guns here in Australia. That's a fuck up. And I firmly believe that a lot of that is because of politics, because of, you know,
Well,
we can't harass people of this ethnicity because that might be
right.
seen as racist, and we don't want that.
Well, this is a
Give me one sec. Keep talking, but
this is a very interesting topic. All right, so you've got what can you say on this? Decisions made at much higher levels above my pay grade around what certain people's cases are. And, you know, every case is individual. Everyone is different, whether I agree, whether you agree, whether anyone agrees. What you don't know is, and this is the thing that people always forget, it is frustrating at times, but you never know the full ins and outs of the details. So unless you're on that case and you know the full details, it looks a certain way. It can always look a certain way. Was it a fuck up? Who knows? Was it a decision made based on the fact that actually it was the right decision, but that something's happened in that person's life? You know, was it a case of that they should never have been here in the first place or in the country in the first place? Should they ever got a firearms license? You know, look, at the end of the day, every country has got different rules and laws. Every country has a different way of dealing with it. The biggest hindrance to some of that is the Human Rights Act. Now, I've just read recently that a known terrorist within the UK, it's on international news now, has the UK government has just agreed to pay
over. Keir Starmer tweeted out about that he's glad they're coming back, and everyone's like, "What the fuck?"
No, not that one. This is another one. He's just been paid out from the UK courts £300,000, even though he's convicted in prison as a terrorist because it breached some of his human rights. I mean, I'm not being funny. There comes a point where, this is my opinion only, but there comes a point where you've got to say, fucking hell, what's going on here? Sensibility needs to overrule certain laws. Now, if a judge is in a position where they're going, I've got no choice because that's what the law says, then at that point there should be some discretion. And that's the problem with policing these days. That's the problem with everything in the world these days. People are too scared to use discretion. When I joined, you could use discretion. Fuck me, I use discretion a lot. I dealt with a lot of shit through discretion. And I got to the right scenario, the problem was solved. All right.
Body cams, mobile phones, everything, everyone's held to the court of public opinion.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at it now, right, this is a question I will put out there. I've got to be very careful how I word this, but let me find a way of putting this, right? Okay. If you or your family member of yours was potentially about to be killed, what would be your reaction? What would you expect someone in an authoritarian position to do?
Everything in their power to fucking save them.
Right. So that would include, would it not, taking someone out?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Do you know what happens now to normal firearms officers within the UK?
The minute they draw it, they're fucking basically held to account.
Right. How many of them do you reckon have been to court and been potentially prosecuted?
Oh, I would say quite a lot.
Right.
Look at the court of public opinion on the, again, because it's fresh in my mind, but the amount of what do they call it? You know the word, couch coaches. Basically, people sitting from home and they're all judging the police officers who responded to the 2 shooters here in Australia, and they're all saying this, they're all saying that about them, and it's kind of good, but also sad. Everything was documented very well from that. There were so many people recording, but everyone is, they're all got their opinion on what they should have done. I just found out recently one of the cops who got shot and was very seriously wounded was laying there on the ground, and another person came up and said, "Give me your gun so I can go fight the terrorists." And the cop was like, "No, I'm not giving you my gun."
You can't. Of course you can't.
And that person's being taken to task by media here in Australia, saying, "Why didn't he?" It's like, because no, you just don't fucking do that. You don't give your gun to someone, and
of course you can't. One, they're not trained. You don't have to. Wasn't he bleeding out at the time as well?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Right. Well, there you go. So
armchair quarterback. Funny, thank you, Bulldog. That's the statement I was looking for. Armchair quarterbacks. Everyone thinks they know fucking. It's like I said with my opinion on what happened here, but it's got to be fucking hard for you in that role where, yes, you're still able to get in and do your job, but a lot of the policy and direction comes from the politicians at the top. And someone said in chat there before that a lot of the time these politicians are making these decisions because they're worried about being re-elected, and the. I just wonder how much of the of the reason that Europe, Australia, America, and that is the way it is because politicians have made suicidal empathy. We've made decisions that have allowed us to destroy our own cultures.
I mean, that's far above my pay grade, mate. When I was in, all you can say.
It's got to be hard for you on the ground doing your job when you're kind of hamstrung a bit as well.
It all depends, doesn't it? I mean, if you're talking at the highest levels, well, if things happen that, sometimes things happen where you're not handicapped by that. So, what do you do?
You just got to hope they've got your back. You just got to hope they've got your back. And when you're saying stories though about the amount of cops who end up, we get it here in Australia. Every single interaction, the body cams are on, and the cops are taking the task over every single little thing.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's wrong to say, because this is public knowledge, that there are a lot of police officers who are firearms trained within the UK over the last 5 to 6, 7 years, who I'm just addressing something that's come up in chat, who have said, and on the record, that that they don't feel they're supported if they was to do so, if they was to do their job. That's on the public record. It's been brought up in Parliament, live Parliament. At the end of the day, it's a statement that's readily available out there. And I think that's something that, again, it goes back to, doesn't it? It all goes back to being transparent and being honest. And, look, at the end of the day, things happen sometimes. The world is the way it is. You've got to do the best you can. That's all I can really say on it, I've been very, very careful what I've actually said in this. I know what I'm allowed to say and what I'm not allowed to say. But at the end of the day, I think it's the problem is there is someone I know in chat that has let me word this correctly, that has some experience with maybe something
similar,
possibly. I won't say anything other than that. And I just think that everything I've said here today is stuff that I've made sure that I can say. And it's across the whole world right now. But the UK, I can only talk on this perspective because I can't talk to you about your country or about America. I've got a good idea. I've got friends and colleagues, in different countries, but I've never worked in it, and I won't ever say anything unless I've actually got some personal experience in the matter, and have seen it myself. But like I say, it's a sore subject. It's difficult. It's really difficult. I really feel for a lot of officers today. I know that if I was still there today, I probably would not survive in that today, because I was always very firmly one of those that would stand up and say, I don't care what rank you are. If I don't agree with it, I will tell you I don't agree with it. And I don't think that even really exists too much these days. And there was lots of people in my time, lots of people of all ranks who would happily go to the highest ranking individual and go, look, you're wrong. No, I'm not doing it. And this is why. I don't know if that exists today. I think a lot of that you're likely to get disciplinary action for. So I have no idea, mate, really, on that scenario right now. But it is it's even worse, in my opinion, now than it ever was, from what I'm hearing anyway.
Let me just go to the next question. You sort of touched on this a little bit, but I actually know this was in the pre-show conversations we were having. So the jobs that you've done over all these years, they've obviously affected you, and we're starting to get into. There's been a few people ask about it, the PTSD side of things. Hypervigilance is one of the big things of PTSD. And you said to me that you even certain things you'd learned you still do to this day. We were talking about that beforehand. I've got some things that I like to do, and they just never leave you. it's got to be on a different level for you though, because again, yeah, my experience was in a foreign country, and I'm back in Australia now, and I, for the most part, feel safe here because I've never really seen the dark underbelly of Australia personally firsthand. Whereas that was essentially what you were dealing in. How does that affect you on a day-to-day basis with that hypervigilance sort of side of it?
The thing is, right, when you've been trained, and there are certain people in chat who I know have experience here, and they will understand what I'm about to say. So every year, pretty much, if you hold any kind of training, they're called tickets, basically, where I am. But if you hold any kind of training or specialist training, you have to renew that. The same as carrying a taser. You've got to do a refresher course every year or 2 years. I can't remember which one it was now. I think it was every 2 years when I was there. And you have to be competent. Now, if you're doing that every fucking year for 20 plus years, like I was, they're just habits that are going to stay with you for life. Some of this training, right? For instance, for me, it's all around. I mean, bearing in mind, I've already told you I was surveillance trained. That's a typical example for me where every fucking day I'm aware of my surroundings. Every day I step out of my home, I am looking in shop window and using that as a mirror to look behind me. I can remember the number plates of vehicles, 5, 6 cars behind me, who's turned right, at what point. If they turn left the same way I've turned, I go around another roundabout. If they're still there, I go around maybe a street that they wouldn't normally drive in. I am very aware of all that stuff. I do it all the time. And when you did the type of role I did in my last role, you were having to practice your trade craft as often as you could. Now, whether that be on official training exercises or whether you would do that generally day to day, I'd always go into work a different way, or I tried to. I'd park my car in a different place every fucking day, right? I would always look at the routes I took every fucking day. Not that I had to, but I was trained for when I was deployed in certain aspects that's what I would do. That was a part of my training. You had legends. So a lot of the time, if I was deployed on an incident in those roles I've just told you about, you would have a legend that you'd have to keep up to. So a cover story, a name, possibly, a job you would do, for instance, and you'd have to keep that. You'd have to keep true to that on that deployment. Now, the difficulty, and you would have seen films around this, like the Millwall, the football riots and the riot police and the undercover cops and stuff like this, where if you're deployed for long enough, you have to be that good that you become that individual. The problem is, can you switch it off? Can you switch it off when you're back to normal, back at home with the missus and everything else? Can you go back to who you are? And I tell you what, that is difficult. That is fucking difficult. Very difficult. So, I can tell you this now, as part of my PTSD, I'm quite happy to talk about it. And there are times where I've come home and I have acted in a way that would you could match up with what I was doing in another role. And I'm like, what the fuck what are you saying? Why are you saying that like that? What are you fucking doing? They don't know what you're fucking even talking about. Do you know what I mean? So it is something that after a long time of exposure to that type of stuff, then you have to be very fucking aware, very aware of who you truly are. Now, there are a lot of people that have been retired on medical grounds or whatever else who've got into bad incidents or whatever because of that type of stuff. The PTSD side of it, if you want to get into that, is that where you're heading now?
Yeah.
Okay,
because, well, where is it? How did PTSD first start to show itself for you?
Well, I didn't notice it, and I'd clearly had it for a couple of years before I noticed it, and I had to make a real difficult decision because the day you come out with, I'm not right, is the day you get removed from deployments.
And this is a topic that I want to delve into, but go on.
So I remember, 2019, maybe 2018, maybe even before that, 2017. I can't give you the exact date, but what I can tell you is, um, I was waking up. I wasn't sleeping. It started off. I think it started off me actually realizing it when I just couldn't sleep. I couldn't get a full night's sleep, and there were times where it escalated to a point where I would wake up in a corner, dripping in sweat, crying, or there would be some noise, and I would react like I was about to die, or I was about to save a life, or something like that. And I'd be at home in my bed, and my family would be here, and I'd be like, "What the fuck just happened?" And with that comes paranoia too. So you prepare yourself for that long for, let's just say, an attack or something, right? And you're ready. You're fucking ready to go. You know, you're fit, you're athletic, you're in the gym every day, you're fucking, you're at the top of your game, you're ready. As most police officers would say, I'm ready to go. If something kicked off, I'm there. I'm ready to go. Right now, send me, right? But when it doesn't happen and you've been used to it for so long, or on a particular day, it's just a normal day, right? That feeling don't go away. So you are primed, ready to go the whole time. I would make decisions on my personal life just in case something happened. Now, bearing in mind, I worked in intelligence for the last section of my career, so there was always something ready to go. Whether it did or not at that time was a different story, but you was always ready to go. So I started noticing something wasn't right. I was getting really tired. I started to make a couple of basic mistakes in my written work. So the written work I was producing was essential that I was providing the right reports, and the information I was providing was correct to the very best of my knowledge and capability. And I was doing stupid shit like making spelling mistakes. Luckily, it never led to any major ball drop, but I saw it quite quickly at that point, and I was like, "Fuck." I thought about it for about a day, and I remember going into work. The day that it all properly hit me, was the day I turned around and went, "Right, I need to fucking get some help here." And straight away, everything, no more deploy. I've never deployed again. Everything,
How was it
everything.
for you mentally to like to put it into a capacity that might help some others understand where I'm going with this? But my wife, when she had her cardiac arrest last year, um, that was after a massive obligation she had with her job at the time, and she worked nearly 3 days straight without any sleep to meet a deadline and to get all this work done, and it basically killed her. The amount of stress and all that she was under, combined with the underlying medical condition, and she said for her, the biggest part of dealing with it was realizing that she isn't a machine, that that she'd found her limit of what she couldn't do. Was that kind of the same for you? Was it a bit of
I,
it was
I
hard for you to handle realizing that, you know, you kind of, for want of a better way of wording it, but you're kind of broken?
I was broke. I was fucked. I was absolutely broken. The years of dead bodies, the years of death of children, of adults, of horrible, horrible, horrible stuff, and I won't even be able to scratch the surface.
Because
So
you would
I'm
have
not.
been on scene fairly quick with some of these incidents too, wouldn't you? You would have seen some terrible fucking shit.
Well, not only that, and we're not just talking about terrorism here. We're talking about the whole career in the police, right?
Yeah.
So it was explained to many of us that join that, from people that have gone through it, what the analogy, a lot of it is that you've got a jar, and all the memories in that jar go into that jar, and then suddenly one day the lid will come off, and it's all a mess. I'll tell you what happened with me, right? This was the same time when I've just spoke about when I knew something was wrong. The jar got smashed on the floor.
Mhm.
Everything was coming back. I was seeing in my sleep dead people that I've been to scenes, fucking kids, fucking dead, like brain everywhere, fucking mate. I was seeing daily, and I get it now. I still get it now. I still see it all now. I still don't sleep now. Not really. I have, maybe it's got better. At the worst of it, I was getting maybe an hour's sleep a day or a night, an hour's sleep, and you can't function off anything less than like 5 hours roughly sleep. I wake up every night now. I still have nightmares every fucking night. Every single fucking night I'm awake. And I can get 3 hours sleep now, roughly about 3 hours sleep. And the thing is, it's not just that, it's the things you know. It's the things that you know, but there's no point talking about. One, some of it you can't talk about. Secondly, some of it you can talk about, but no one else.
Who do you talk to about it? Yeah.
Who do you talk to? No one else is going to know. No one else is going to know or even be able to comprehend what you're talking about. All they're going to be able to see, and that includes my own family, all they'll be able to see is, oh, right, so there was a dead person and they didn't look very good. It must have been horrible for you. But what you don't know is I seen, for instance, I'll give you graphic detail of one that pops up with me all the time. A child's brain out of their head, mashed up, skull fucking wrecked, body tangled, mate, horrible. The worst possible scenario you can think of. I will never forget that. I'll never forget that. And even all the way back to when I first joined, right? One of the things they used to do in your probation, I don't think they do it anymore, but in my probation, they used to make you go to the morgue and post-mortem. And I'll never forget it. My post, I laugh now, but my post-mortem, like fucking first ever, was a guy with a bald head in a local hospital who looked like some kind of fucking serial killer. He looked deranged. He didn't look right. He looked fucking mad. Opens up the fridge, one of the fridges, pulls out an old lady. Her head smashes on the side of the railings of a tray he's putting her on, the fucking stretcher he's putting her on. And I'm like, fuck it, hold on, that's someone's granny there. That's someone's mum. What the fuck? And he's going, right, I'm going to take the brain out. And he cuts the brain out, right? He properly slices from chin all the way down to pubic bone, takes every organ out, chops it all up, has a little look at it, chucks it in a bag. Fuck it, mate. To this day, that's some heavy shit. To this day, I never forget that. Right? So, and that's normal. That's a normal day, right? So now look at some of the real bad. All of us have got certain things that we struggle to do, whether it's a child death, whether it's an adult, whether it's a female, whether it's a male, whatever it may be, all of us have got different levels of coping. So for me, the worst ones were always children. Without a doubt, the worst ones for me were always children. And
that's the one thing for me from Somalia as well is the kids. I always had a soft spot for the kids because that they weren't responsible for the ills of the country, but them and the women were the people who suffered the most because of what was happening there. And that shit fucks with you. It really does, particularly if you are a male with a bit of a chivalric attitude to life. It breaks your fucking heart.
Well, put it this way: as an officer,
breaks your brain.
Right? As I can't talk for army, I can't talk for fire. I can talk for what I've been through. Right?
Yeah.
I know they're the same, pretty much, slightly different circumstances, but I can only talk from my perspective. All right. So, what I can tell you is that as a male, and this isn't meant to come across sexist in any way, but I can only talk because I'm a male, right? But as a male, there's male camaraderie. And the way that we would deal with that, me and my friends, who all been through the same shit, some of them, like the normal stuff on local areas and local policing and stuff, right? We've all seen dead bodies. We've all seen bad shit, right? Is you would say immediately, right, what are we eating, boys? We're getting McDonald's in something, you'd say that quite quickly to normalize it. And over the years, you're a guy. You're a strong fucking guy. My group of closest mates were all, bar two females, were mainly males in the detective world in my early years, and strong motherfuckers. All of us went to the gym. All of us looked like fucking athletes. We're big, strong men. We got to deal with that shit. We can't fucking sit there and go, "Well, hold on a minute." And back then that was big. So we had to. Well, I say we. I know I did. I used to kind of partition my brain to go, that's over there. Right. Yeah. All right. Another bad one. All right. Cool. No problem. We're good. Next one. Give me the next one. Give me the next one. And this is the thing. Until one day, and it could be when you have retired, you could have done the full 30 years, 5 years after that. it suddenly fucking hit you. It could hit you on the day that it happens. And the fucking lid just smashes, the whole bottle smashes. And now you've got all of this shit that you cannot get out of your head. I wake up now in sweats. I wake up crying sometimes. Even to this day, right? Even now, and I've been retired 3 years, right? I often ask myself, was it worth it? And my answer is always, I like to think I did some good. So, yes, I'm suffering. I will never recover from it. I mean, I've got complex.
Such is the burden of man.
Yeah. Well, I was
Someone
diagnosed.
has to do it.
I was diagnosed with severe complex PTSD, right? Which is the worst form you can have, right? So I'm told. And to answer another question in chat, yes, I was lucky. I had a lot of help through my role, probably because of the role I did, right? They were fucking fantastic in terms of the support I was given. And I had 3 to 5 years, I think it was, within the police of going, I think it was 3, maybe 4 years, going through this in the job, right? Yes, I had time off sick for some of it. Yes, I was seeing a psychiatrist all of the time. Job provided it. You know, it was a specific job related one. I had EMDR, all kinds of stuff that I could have, I had through the job. They got to a point where they exhausted everything they could have done with me and it still didn't work. So I retired in 2023 because it was just past repair. So yeah, even still now to this day, it is very, very difficult, which led me into an escape, which I'm sure you want to go into as well.
Well, there's a couple of things I want to address. I just shared a video in chat for people to bookmark for later. And it's one that I like to share with a lot of ex-military people. And there's quite a few in chat here. So it was done by an Australian psychiatrist or psychologist, and he was predominantly dealing with Vietnam veterans and their wives when this video was recorded. But it's called "You're Not in the Forces Now," and it talks about how people insert. You watched it. What did you think of it?
Yeah, it's right, absolutely right. Yeah.
Because you said something about how your jar, and I wanted to how your jar basically exploded, and I wanted to give people the visual that the guy does in the video that helps some people who've never served in anything like this understand it. So, you know, this is your glass of water, which is your stress level, and for the average person, it sits about here. You know, some bills come in, you have a fight with the wife, and then it goes back down. When you join something like the military or certain units like the police and that, your stress level is generally always sitting around about here. And it doesn't take a lot for you to overflow, but they train you to manage it. Like, Cobra said, he compartmentalized. So it doesn't, but as all this shit keeps on building, your permanent stress is always up there. And I can't imagine what it was like for you as a cop where, and, you know, with the special branch stuff you were doing, where you literally, like we said earlier on in the interview, you are in these situations and then you're home with the wife and kids. And you've got to be able to be a normal husband, a normal father, a normal friend to your mate who lives next door. And they're talking about the most mundane bullshit. And you're sitting there thinking about the little kid whose brains you saw fucking splattered all over the ground. And there's only so long any person can switch that shit off, who has, you know, just has any soul left in them. And that's where I get really pissed off with the forces and the police and governments in general, in that, you know, so there came the day where you said, I need help, and immediately you were backed out. Now, I know my own experience when I was being medically discharged. It was the worst fucking time, and it still upsets me to this day. The worst fucking time of my military career. It was basically, oh, you're broken. There's the door. Don't let it hit your ass on the way out. Now, I hope you had a better experience, but for me, this was 2000 back in Australia, and they just didn't care. No one cared because I was a broken man, no longer suitable for the military, and I was just taking up a slot that a good soldier could be in, and it left me very bitter and added to my anxiety and depression that I had when I got out.
Yeah.
I hope to I like to think that they maybe change, but everything I see says they don't, because it's terrible when you realize you can't do that job anymore.
Well, I mean, once you've done it for so long and it's your identity, it's very difficult to imagine anything else. I mean, what I can say is my dad served for many years in the armed forces.
He would have been a good sounding board for you.
Well, no, he had severe PTSD. My brother, who's just come back from Afghan, he had to retire from the army. He's younger than me. Severe PTSD. I won't go into that. One, it's not my story to tell, but secondly, yeah, he's still struggling now with addiction to alcohol over it all. So he's been on that road for about 3-4 years now. What I will tell you is his best friends all around him, his whole fucking unit, were all pretty much killed in battle. So, you know, for me, let me put it like this, because to answer your question directly, right? There were people, senior officers. Okay, let me rephrase that. There were some people above my rank who treated me poorly after this come out.
Yeah.
But the organization itself did everything that they were supposed to do for me. So all in all, I think things have got better.
Okay, no. Let me clarify this. They did everything they were supposed to do, but did they do enough?
I think in terms of treatment, the HR department did everything. The medical department did everything that could have, even above and beyond what they were expected. They were giving me extra sessions when they were paying for it, and they said we're already past your limit, the officer limit. Every officer has got a medical limit, monetary limit. I didn't know any of this until I've been through it myself. But basically, as an officer over here, they will support you as much as they can, and there is some form of allocation.
That makes me so fucking angry. It's like,
well,
they expect you to fucking put your life on the line for your country, but then they put a monetary. I know bean counters and all that sort of shit, but that really makes me fucking angry when I hear shit like that, Cobra. It's political fucking bullshit. They will throw you under the fucking bus, and you know, hang you out to fucking dry. But they'll count fucking beans about, oh, he's gone over, and they probably had to fucking justify it and all the rest of it. But it's very disheartening, and yeah, kind of ties into a topic we'll go to later. But a few people have asked, what advice would you give people joining now? But that makes me angry when I hear that.
Well, I mean, I believe I was treated a damn sight better than other officers who weren't within my roles. All right. So I know other officers, and obviously I won't go into any details at all, but I know other officers suffering majorly from PTSD, some diagnosed, some not. And that also is a slightly different kettle of fish if you're not diagnosed. But anyway, who didn't have anywhere near the same treatment I had. Now, I believe, I don't know if this is true, but I believe when you're in certain roles, you how do I put this? There's no political way for me to answer this, but basically what I'm trying to say is, in certain levels of roles, you will get taken care of probably, if you've got the right management, a bit better than others in other roles. Whether you're just, and this sounds really shit, and I don't want this to come across this way, but I don't know a better way of saying it. If you are on the street, for instance, a PC, and something bad happens, some people will look after you, but the level I got was above that. Now, was that because of the roles I did? I think my management at the time did one thing right, and they made sure that I got what I needed. So answer that as you will. Look at that as you will.
Mm-hmm. What would you want serving officers to hear if they're struggling but afraid to speak up?
I think nowadays it's all about, you've got to come forward. I mean, look, the pressures are this, right? The reality is this, right? If you go sick, and you say, I'm struggling, I can't sleep, your line manager is probably going to go, all right, mate, have a couple of days off here. When you're back. They've got to go through a process of, look, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it is, a review, basically, right? And they'll try and get you back and as quickly as possible. And, your welfare does matter, but, they will try and get you back in the workplace or similar role as quickly as possible, right? If you have protected yourself and have gone to the doctors, gone to a GP, or gone through the police medical procedures, then you are protected. You've got a record, you've got an audit trail.
How do you go to the doctor and talk about your trauma when you can't actually talk about the incident?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So
you're again, this is something unique to people like you, mate. I can go to the doctor and I can tell them about the woman I fucking had to strangle in Somalia because it's not classified fucking information. I didn't kill her, so don't worry about that. But I could talk about those sorts of things. But you're going there and saying, I feel bad. Why? That's classified. No, I can't tell you.
I had there had to be a protocol for me for people in my role. So basically,
maybe a security cleared psych or something.
So my psychiatrist was cleared. Yeah, was specific. And even then, the information that was given to me, I was told by senior officers that I'm allowed to talk about everything, but I can't discuss tactics or specifics within a specific incident. Right. So I could talk about why and what I was deployed on, but I couldn't talk about the ins and outs of it, and I couldn't talk about what I did in that particular role tactically. That was where I learned pretty quickly that I couldn't really talk about what I really needed to get off my chest, and it was really fucking difficult, to be honest with you. I sought clarification on multiple occasions, and my senior officers didn't even fucking know, to be honest with you. The response I got back was, right, we don't know. Let me get back to you. And then a number of weeks later, you get, right, this has been cleared. You can talk about this, and this, but you can't say that, and you can't go talk about that. Bearing in mind, my role and my vetting at the time was at a highest level. My vetting was at the highest level. So let me explain the vetting procedures. Hold on. I'm not sure if I can actually say this. All right. What I will say is there are 3 main vetting levels, right? And
this is kind of common knowledge. You've got like, your secret, top secret, and eyes only. We'll just come up with 3 arbitrary titles.
Yeah, they're not called that, but yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm just coming up with 3 random things to make it easier for you.
Absolutely. So So I was highly vetted. So at that point, you have got eyes on information that is of national security. Let's just put it that way. And at that point, you can't disclose that shit. You can't disclose that at all. So, not that you need to, but for instance, where it come into play for me is I was unsure. Can I say I was at this location at this time and dealt with this? Can I say that is where I was going? And they didn't know. So that's where the clarification had to be had. And that's what I got back. So what I tended to do was going through my, let's just say, trying to go through some form of recovery process. I kept it to, some of it was my last line of work, which you can appreciate could have been very fucking bad at times. And I kept a lot of it to other stuff. And I've seen a lot of dead bodies over the years that are not connected to terrorism as well. Right. So, but don't forget that this doesn't even scratch the surface with, in briefings, for instance, it's not just dead bodies you see. In briefings, you're shown photos. Sometimes you need to see what you're dealing with, why you're there, and some of those photos are fucking horribly graphic. There's been new laws and legislation and policies come in around, like, for instance, sexual offences. Only the OIC, that's the officer in charge of the case, will have sight on the levels that have been graded by another professional who is their job to look at that material. So there is provisions in place for some of this. But when I was working, there wasn't any provisions. The OIC, the officer in the case, would be looking at fucking everything, so that you were presenting the case at court. So you need to know everything. I've seen, oh God, this is horrible, but I've seen young girls raped on video. I've seen fucking people set on fire, fucking stabbed, footage of all kinds you can imagine. And that alone is bad. But when you've got to see it in live action or the aftermath of a live incident, that's just as bad too, sometimes worse.
Is there anything you've basically shut off that you can't remember that happened?
Oh, loads of shit, mate. Loads of shit. Loads of stuff. But they ain't the worst ones that haunt me. The ones that haunt me, they were like, as it was explained to me in my help, should we say, in my recovery process. They said to me, focus on the top 5. It was 10 originally. Focus on the top 5 worst case things that are haunting you. And I was able to blurt out probably 10. So at that point, when you go through psychiatrics and fucking EMDR processes and stuff like that, it kind of doesn't improve. Yes, you get a bit off your chest because you've now finally spoken about some of it, but it will always be there. And even then, you still can't describe it. I can still smell certain smells from deaths and shit to this day.
There's certain charcoal's one for me. That's just it's a trigger in my brain.
Well,
I don't really know why, other than the fact that there was a lot of it, but it's
Well, think about this, right? The human body, when it's dead, or when you're officially declared dead, the human body is capable of movements, farting, fucking all kinds of shit for hours afterwards. Eyes moving, nerve system still going, hands fucking wiggling. I've seen a guy nearly get up that's been dead, So, but obviously they've fallen straight back down. But I've seen all kinds of crazy shit that you do not know this stuff until you see it. You look at it on a movie and go, "Oh fucking hell, this is great, isn't it? This is that would never happen." Well, yeah, it does happen. There's some mad stuff that goes on. I'm smiling now, but later on tonight when I try to sleep,
if you don't, you go crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
It's part of that whole thing with black humor. You talked about when you were at a murder scene, McDonald's later, because that was the other thing I wanted to bring up at that time as well. It reminded me of there was a professor in the US who did a ride along with American police. He was a black professor. And in that ride along, they witnessed or they turned up to a murder scene. And it was pretty graphic. And after they dealt with it, he said to the other cops who were with him, okay, so I guess drinks are on me, lads. And they all kind of laughed at him. And he said, well, what do you mean? He goes, we've got to go back to work, mate. We've got paperwork to do. Murders are a very paperwork intensive thing. And he was like, wait, so no downtime? And he went and spoke to their commander, and the commander said, if every cop I had took downtime after witnessing something like this, I'd have no cops left on the beat.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've just got to compartmentalize this shit and just get on with the job. And it's very hard, as you said, prior to when you finally realized things were going bad, was there any assistance you could access that wouldn't be detrimental to your career? Or was it like in the military where you just didn't talk about shit because the second you did, you got flagged?
The thing is, this is correct. This is right, by the way. You've got to look out for your colleagues. You've got to look out for each other, right? So, look, you put in scenario sometimes, which is very, very fucking difficult. It's happened to me before where a very good friend of mine was suffering badly. And when I found out about it, I said to him, if you don't fucking tell him now, I'm taking you in there and I'm going to tell him. Because at the end of the day, it's not about friendship. It's about making sure someone that you care about is okay. Because that shit
and also that, there's the professional side of it as well. You need him to be on point.
Yeah, absolutely. If mistakes are made and they lose their job because of it and you knew something about it, or if someone gets hurt because of it and you knew something about it, it's on you, and I'd expect the same to happen to me. And the second I raised it, I knew that was me, that my career was done. Everything about it was done. So you do hold it all up. You do keep it all in. You don't say fuck all. until it gets to a point where it is fucked you, properly messed you up. And at that point, most people crack. And there's a reason why police officers' life expectancy is very short after retirement. Because the second that they stop moving from job to job to job to job to job continually for 30 years, you've got 7 years. The average police officer survives for 7 years after retirement. And you are just left there with you've got no power anymore. You've got no group community support.
That's a big thing for me. No sense of purpose.
Yeah. What do you do? And that's why I always had to have something else going on to survive what I did. I probably wouldn't have been here now, to be honest with you, if I didn't. So, that's a fact. It's sad to say, but yeah, I was in a bad way.
That's pretty deep there, Sardog.
Yeah, I'm just reading that.
It's weird, the triggers, isn't it, mate? It's weird, the things that trigger flashbacks and memories and
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
It is bad, mate. It is bad. And you know what? This is the other thing that I'll put out there. It doesn't matter what role you did. It doesn't matter what you feel is important or not, or what's a higher level of this shit or not. If you've got PTSD, you got PTSD. It's that simple. It doesn't matter what you've done, what career you had. You could be a normal member of the public one day and something bad happen in front of you, and you are going to have PTSD and potentially. So, I know loads of people who've not served a day in their lives, but have seen something bad, and they have had the same struggles I've had, and still do.
Yep.
So
everyone reacts differently to things, and depending on your upbringing, your training, and everything like that, is how well you can cope with it. But the black dog eventually catches up to everyone. It does. It might take only one incident. It might take a lot, and it's more than just that one incident as well. It's a lot of things afterwards. How you feel in being able to share, and certain jobs just make it very hard to share, particularly these men doing manly things sort of roles. You don't want to be showing that you're not doing okay.
of course not. You've got people who depend on you. If you've got families and you've got colleagues who fucking look up to you, or you're an important part of their day. And mate, it's just there's so much to think about. There's so much that you lose really at the end of it.
What was the hardest part of stepping away from a career built on identity and duty?
I didn't know what to do when it came to my time. I was like, bloody, well, what do I do? What do I now become? Is that me done for life? Am I ever going to get another job? Am I ever going to? I would have lost my vetting. I'd have lost fucking everything.
That statement. What were your career options afterwards? I know. I joke about it. When I got kicked out of the army because of my knees and PTSD, it was basically, great, what do I do now? I know how to kill people in a variety of wonderful and different ways. Is essentially, I was an infantryman. That was all I'd been trained with how to do, was operate weapons. What do I do? I ended up doing security because I just didn't know what to fucking do. I felt lost. What was it like for you?
Well, you definitely feel lost. It's taken me a long time to be happy with the fact that if something bad happens, that I ain't going to get a call. So and that there for me was like, let's bring this down to what it really is, right? So a bit of it would be ego, right? Hellbent, I read that. Yeah, you're cool, mate. Hellbent suffers. He's a friend of mine. Hellbent suffers with it too. You lose. Where was I? Yeah, a little bit of ego. So the fact that when something bad happens, you are the one people rely on, or you are one of the people that people rely on, right? So that's a big thing. That's a big thing. I would have happily at any moment, and I say this very clearly, given my life to protect someone else. That's why I joined, right?
Yeah.
That's the reason I joined. Now, where'd you go from that? So you suddenly now don't have a warrant card. You don't have any powers, like I said. You don't have all of these people you liaise with every day and have jokes with and fucking, oh shit, job's kicked off. Right, boys, let's go into action. Let's get this shit done. Blah, blah, blah. Deploy it. You don't have none of that anymore. All of your training that you've had over the years, you sit there and go, well, what can I can't, it doesn't mean fuck all in normal Civvy Street. It doesn't mean nothing, you won't be doing any of that again. It's a profound loss. It really is.
Yeah.
But the life goes on, and you've got to find a way to create a new identity, which is what I've done.
I borderline removed myself from almost everything military related. Other than, I talk about it quite a bit, but I don't really associate. I started 2 Facebook groups for one for ex-members of One Hour and one for members of Somalia. And I just found that too traumatic. I ended up just giving the groups away to someone else because I was just getting sick and tired of dealing with all the shit from those sorts of groups. I find it easier myself to be as far removed from that as possible. Do you do similar, or are you still heavily involved with a lot of that?
No. I'll tell you what I've done. I have removed myself from any interaction with anybody, bar a couple of very good friends that are even in the job anymore. I don't talk to anyone in the job anymore. Anyone, because I can't really put it into words, but the second you are no longer, people treat you differently. You treat them differently. You don't feel the same anymore. And you don't, for me, it's about remembering what used to happen, what I used to do, what they now do. And that's the worst thing for me. If I have to now deal with anybody in those roles at all, I don't want to talk to them. I will walk the other way. That's how I deal with it.
There's sorry, I want to quickly address that one. There's one in chat there for you.
I know Jack. I know Jack. Yeah,
mate, I'm Australian, and even I know that one. There is no fucking boathouse.
Exactly. Exactly. No, Jack's in a lot of my streams. He says it every fucking stream, so that's all right. Don't worry, it's all good.
But yeah, no, I'm with you on that, mate. I just found it easier. It's something I learned, but I wish I'd had your brains to just back away from it, because the problem I find as well, there's a lot of people who can't move past that time. And as important as what it was, and so many people have said, thank you for what you've done, Cobra. That's in the past now. And Cobra showed me he's got some lovely awards. He has had presentations from the King and all sorts of really fucking amazing shit. But that's all in the past now.
That was a long service medal, so it wasn't anything other than a long service medal.
A lot of people, if you continue to hold on to it, and it always makes me sad when it becomes their whole identity is what they were. That having served my country as a soldier and being deployed overseas in Somalia, I'm very proud of. But my number one job now is husband and father, and they are the 2 most important things to me in my life. And my military stuff, that's something that happened, and I'm proud of, but it's not the be all and end all of me. There's a lot more to me than just Boydie, the platoon signaller in Somalia in 1993, and the bloke who got promoted and demoted twice for alcohol-related offences. That's 30 fucking years ago now, almost. So you've got to move past it, and a lot of people, they just can't, can they, Cobra?
Well, I mean, I like I said before, I'm quite open. I fucking struggle still now, and I struggle daily now. And there's a real good question in chat from Offset. Any networking opportunities from your service? The problem is, once you get diagnosed with PTSD, or severe, in my case, complex PTSD, you ain't never going to hold a role ever again that has any kind of resemblance to what we did or what I was doing before. So you won't get vetted again.
Consultancy work, security advisor, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, but in terms of any roles like back in any kind of services, you ain't getting any of that. You know, what you're gonna do? You're gonna be a statement taker. Are you gonna be someone who, look, my detective skills for all those years of being a detective, I could still operate at a very high level. But the problem, detective wise, the problem is my mind and my body could not deal with that now. That's the problem. So I one, as you know, I don't get enough sleep as it is. I still only get 2-3 hours of sleep a night. I can't survive off that. I have to like have breaks and try and sleep in the day, like 3 or 4 times in a day. Sometimes I might not be on time to stuff. Sometimes I will forget shit.
I forget shit all the fucking time, mate. I swear I'm getting dementia. I
well,
just constantly forget shit.
well, let me tell you this, right? People who know me quite well will say you have developed overnight dyslexia because nowadays I have to really, really concentrate on writing a sentence because when I write it, for some reason, and this is part as it's been explained to me, this is part of my case of PTSD. It's unreliable. What my hands are typing is not reliable to what my head is. I know what's going on in my head, right? So there are so many security risks to that, and again, there's so many risks to fucking up and forgetting something, or anything that requires some kind of proper job. I'm not reliable anymore, and that's a simple fact of it. And that's why content creation, being as flexible as it can be for me, is something that I can do. And look, some people will be embarrassed admitting that, but look, this is the effects of what it's done to me. So I'll just always tell the truth. That's the truth. Struggle daily. That's it.
The raffle just got drawn, folks. The 8 winners should have had a message pop up. So send me a DM in the Discord. I'll post a link to the Discord because the permanent link is gone. But send me a message and I'll send you the code to your game. So congratulations. Okay. So going from national security to YouTube is a massive shift. What did content creation give you that service couldn't?
Well, straight away, I had to look at, am I fucked for life? And I am pretty much fucked for life.
Yeah.
But I will never recover. I will never be the same person. My wife would tell you that. Fucking kids would tell you that. Everyone who knows me would tell you that. And the issues that I struggle with now, which some of them I've just mentioned, I'll be fucked for life. I've done all of the courses. I've done all of the therapy. I've stopped after 5 years of doing it because none of it made any real difference. I'm still on medication now, so I take something called sertraline, which is to basically lower anxiety and stuff like that. But I have to take stuff now just to help me normalize my situation. Now, content creation was the escape. When I first turned the camera on, record days, I just got lost in this world of DayZ. And that's why I've remained loyal to the game itself.
Why DayZ?
It had everything that I was brought up with, survival aspects. I grew up in the army for years.
And my whole thrill, the adrenaline.
Everything.
I've got it up, and I've been waiting for the moment. One of my favorite phrases: "There is no hunting like the hunting of man, and those who have hunted armed men long enough and liked it never care for anything else thereafter." There is something about DayZ. I was talking with a guy at a retail shop yesterday who plays it, and he said there's just something that no other game that DayZ has ever managed to capture. There's that thrill of losing it all. It doesn't come close to the reality of being in a situation where the two-way range, as they say. But there's something about it, isn't there? The DayZ just has this magic to it, doesn't it, Cobra?
Well, you can get lost, right? People ask me. I am the only person, I believe, in a DayZ community content creator who goes to areas of the map that I go to, right?
Because you're running cheats, isn't it?
Oh yeah, so I've heard. Yeah, apparently, yeah. I do get this sometimes. No other content creator can find this amount of stashes on an official server. Well, that's because I know it fucking inside out, every square inch of the map, because I spend most of my time running wildly in the forest across the entire fucking maps, getting to know them because it's like therapy for me. So I remember actually. Do you remember when Livonia first come out, DLC come out, right? When Livonia come out, I spent fucking about a year, running through those forests in every
I
aspect.
love those forests.
Yeah.
People complain about that map, but I love the big forest section down the bottom because you can just get lost in there and it's just find shit. It's fucking awesome.
You can be in a forest by yourself for like 5-6 hours and suddenly you'll come across a person and you're into it. And I tell you what, this is 100%, right? 100% true, right? I still, to this day, due to the PTSD effects and stuff, so I suffer with, if I hear loud noises as well, I'm like jumping. I'm like, what the fuck? What's happened? Blah, blah, blah. When an M4 was shot at me, on the new, in fact, on Chernarus, it was actually before, when I was going through this, I played a little bit on PS5 before, for years. And I noticed the difference. This is actually quite key. I noticed the difference in my behavior through the game as well, right? So I remember getting shot at and I just fucking jumped, right? I threw the headset, I threw a fucking controller at the wall. Right. But my normal reaction is really calm and calculated. And I was like, what the fuck? And I went funny for about 5 fucking minutes and I had to walk around the room going, what the fuck's just happened? And my reaction there was totally different to every other time I've been shot. Loud sounds, everything else. And again, it was an identifier for me. What the fuck has happened here? And like, there's nothing better than escaping. And there's so many people that escape into games.
That little bit of adrenaline feels good, doesn't it? It scares the fuck out of you.
Well, do you know what? This is the difference. If you watch any of my videos, I'm very calm in PvP because I've always been that way in my job. I've always had to be really fucking calm. And I've had people say to me, how do you remain so calm in a real hectic, all of a sudden PvP battle? And that's because I was trained to keep fucking calm in all circumstances. That's why
you're British as well, mate. You guys are the keep calm and carry on.
Well, get a cup of tea out. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's definitely interesting. But DayZ helped me out, mate. DayZ helped me through a lot of shit.
This is a question, and part of the reason why I've been doing these interviews of late, it's a juxtaposition in that to anyone looking at it as from an outsider's perspective, they would think people like yourself who have PTSD from trauma would avoid a game like this. But I still feel that it comes back to the saying I said, because there's a certain addictiveness to that adrenaline, isn't there? Like I can still remember the feeling of being in Somalia and shit scared, but at the same time, fucking loving every second of it, because it's that kind of a thing of, unless you feared for your life, you don't value your life. Unless you feared for someone else's life, you don't value your own life enough.
I agree with that. Yeah,
it's only a video game, but it's the closest you'll ever get to that situation, barring stuff like mixed martial arts and that sort of stuff, competitive fighting. Where you're actually in there and there's a chance of getting hurt.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think, like I say, I spend most of my time. I mean, fuck me, I play official servers a lot, right? And official servers on a full pop server of 60 people. Forget all of the issues of late around fake servers and all this shit, right? The old school, normal DayZ servers from years gone by, you'd have 60 people on your slot, and you wouldn't bump into anyone for hours sometimes, maybe days sometimes. That was how I was able to escape my for a few hours, everything that was going on in my life. I would get into a load of woods and I would search for bases. I would search for stashes. I would spend probably 6 hours without any interactions at all, because it was a peaceful process that allowed me to forget every other bit of shit that was going Of course, you're going to run into PvP at some point, and you know, there you go. But that's really what the game did for me.
It's
And
a
now,
magical game in that aspect that it does. I part of the reason why I game as well is there's some things I just don't want to think about. But when I switch on a game, being a male, you know, we generally focus on one activity, and I'm able to just completely forget about anything and everything, and just what made you start doing the content side of it? So you started just gaming as something to do,
yeah.
to forget the memories and all the rest of it. How did you decide that you could have some stories to tell?
Well, I mean, what I was doing was, well, I've played DayZ for years, on and off, like PlayStation, fucking, and then went to PC over the years, and I think I kind of got to a point where, oh mate, do me a favor. See, I've had a moment now. Repeat the question.
How did sorry, that's not the right one. How did storytelling become part of your
Oh,
healing
right.
process?
Okay. So,
Yeah.
so what I started to do was I got so good at the finding bases and stashes. And I was drawing maps. This is how in depth I got with it. I got to know the maps, pretty much all of the main maps so fucking well. You could drop me in a location, I'd know within a few seconds exactly where I was. Right. That's how much I then begun to start playing it. And it was therapy for me, right? And then I got to chart. I started charting all of the top locations where people would stash, right? Or build bases, or the most favorite, you know, the hotspot areas. And I had these fucking charts like for months. I had these charts, and I could guarantee you on one in every 3 or 4 servers, people would use the same spots all the time. You know, the characteristics in people are always the same. They can't get away from their usual habits.
People are
Um,
creatures of habit.
there you go. Right. So I got to a point where I was finding all this stuff, and I was seeing other content creators. You know, you can go back to the days of Frankie on PC. You can go back
Mhm.
to, you know, some of the others that I looked at, the more cinematic ones, people like JLK and, you know, others around. There's lots of others that I've known and friends with. And I was the only one doing that. And I thought, do you know what? I'll just do a stupid little bit. I didn't know how to edit. I didn't have any licensed music agreements. I didn't subscriptions. I didn't know anything. I just pressed record on fucking OBS, and it was shit, and it went live, and I just started to get views. And I thought, oh, this is pretty good. This is all right. Let's do a few more. And then over a period of time, it got to a point where I was like, well, this is getting boring now. I'm not really doing anything but showing you what I found. I tell you what, let's make it into a story. And that's where it kind of went from there. I started creating stories of it, and never looked back after that. Really, I've been doing it ever since.
When did you realize that this might be a career?
Um, I always knew that looking at some of the big hitters in content creation across loads of genres, loads of games, that if
Boydie, Archie.
fucking without saying, you know, without saying, you know, look, there is the opportunity potentially to make some money from views, and of course, YouTube pay you via Google Ads, Twitch pays you via subs and bits and fucking everything else, and you know, I started to do all right. I didn't make any money for ages, and then YouTube fucking turned around one day, and I looked at my bank, and I was like, oh, YouTube paid me some money here. So I was like, what's this about? And then I realized actually I it was only like fucking 50 quid or something stupid to start with. And then it just built and built, and I think today we're on just under 60k subs on YouTube,
There
and
you are.
growing. I think Twitch we only really took seriously this year. We're on what, just under 4k on that follower wise. You know, we're not talking massive numbers here, but we're talking, you know, it's not a tiny little channel anymore. And every time I upload a video, I learn more about editing, and you know, I've worked with editors now, and you know,
And
I've
you're
got
playing with
people
some
I
pretty
work
big
with.
names of late. I saw you play with the running man, Paul, a while back.
Yeah, we did a collab, Paul. We've spoken a few times, and we had a conversation. I think I messaged him actually, and he did an interview. a while ago now, and I just messaged him and said, "Hello, mate. Yeah, well done on the interview. I thought it was a very honest one. It was about his the gambling addiction,
Yeah.
and I said that was very brave. Well done. I have a similar type of, well, not an addiction, but I have other issues like PTSD, blah blah blah. And we said we'd do well, he offered to do a collab, and I said, well, yeah, okay, cool, let's do it. I've bumped into a few others over the years, and we've done the odd bit here and there. I think I did one with Sour a little while ago, and that was unplanned though. The one with Sour, that wasn't something we planned. We ran into each other in a map and stayed together for the whole run, and I made a video out of it. But yeah, I mean, we have been getting a bit of interest in that regard, which is nice to see. But like I say, this is a continual process. It's something that's flexible that I can do, and I get peace from doing it.
Well, was it difficult for you mentally going from all these years of discretion and secrecy, and then suddenly being out there in the open for everyone to see? Like, I know certain aspects of it were difficult. Like, for the longest time, we've known each other for years now, and I always knew there was something to you, and I just assumed you were ex-military as well.
A lot of people think that,
yeah, but that's due to you couldn't really say what you had done until that 3-year mark had hit. But how was it for you mentally going from someone who really didn't have a social media presence to all of a sudden being a social media figure?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm always very humble. All right. So at the end of the day,
I'm not saying you're an influencer or fucking Jake Paul fucking level, but you went from being nothing to now someone who's out there in the open.
I mean, it's always a little bit daunting, I think, for a lot of people to turn that camera on, like face cam. Most content creators will not show their faces for multiple reasons. All right. After what I've done in my life, I don't fear anything. I never fear anything. You get to a point where you just don't fucking care anymore. And for me, it was just like, all right, well, I don't care. Let's do it. So it wasn't a massive stumbling block for me doing that. And deciding to go public. And I mean, I think the thing with Archie, when he come on the show and went, "Oh, Cobra used to work in a murder squad," or something like that, I was like, for fuck's sake, I've always wanted to keep my business out of everything. But that did lead to some problems itself, because I used to get a lot of people come into my streams and go, "Oh, he's ex-military. I had people coming in who were telling me they were ex-SAS, and where did you serve? What battalion? When did you join the regiment? Were you SBS? Were you SAS? And I was like, whoa, hold on a fucking minute. What are you talking about? I've not ever said I was anything like that. I've never been recruited in any way for those roles. Have I worked with certain people in those roles? Well, I won't go into that. But at the end of the day, I'm not one of those people on a full-time basis or anything. I definitely never served in the military. Yes, all my family have. Yes, I did apply to join the Marines, but I was very quickly fucked off due to the medical.
This creates questions that you really don't want to be answering as well. Oh, if you weren't that, then how do you know this stuff? Are you a pretender or are you something else? And
mate,
probe and
oh, mate, I've had people say to me, I had someone come into my stream a little while ago and went, just to let you know, you're being investigated for stolen valor. And I went, what? Yeah, from your time in the armed forces.
I remember when you told me about that.
I spoke to you about it, didn't I? I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And my mods were like, what the fuck? And I was like, right, I had to actually take some serious action on that, because I was like, I can't have that go on. I can't have that being said. And I look back on everything. I was like, I know I've never even given anyone the inkling, in my opinion, that I ever served in the armed forces or anything like that. When I was asked for 2 years prior in every stream and everything else that I've always said I don't discuss anything about my background on a live format. I've always said that. But ultimately, I was starting to get a lot of people come in and go, you know, armed forces, there's a bit of mystery here, blah, 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 blah. You know, oh, he's got to be fucking Black Ops and all this bullshit, right? And in the end, I was like, what happened with Archie actually did me a favor because I was able to go, do you know what? Fuck it. I've been out long enough now. I can talk about certain things. There's stuff I can't go into, but there's some stuff I can. I wanted to keep it all personal, but in the content creation world, nothing is fucking. Once you put yourself out there, you are fair game to everyone. So I understand that. I understand and expect that now. So you know, what do you say to that other than confront them head on, which is what I did. And one of the things that annoys me the most is, right, and this goes for certain content creators as well, right? I will always say I am who I am. I'm honest. I'm integral. I will talk in full belief of what I know. I'll never try and discuss stuff that doesn't involve me or I've never had any experience with. But let me tell you this. If you've got something you want to say to me, come to me, to my fucking face, and we will have a discussion. Don't be the pussy, and I won't apologize for this. Don't be a fucking pussy and hide behind emails, hide behind comments. I've even had the odd content creator say things to insinuate certain things. And I've just looked at it and gone, do you think I'm fucking stupid? Mate, come and talk to me in person. Don't bullshit yourself. Don't fucking be a pussy. If you got something to say, come to me direct. I will happily sit you down and talk to you. No problem at all. You can ask me what you want. If I can tell you, I'll tell you. If I can't, I won't. But I can't stand fake people. I cannot fucking stand dickheads who type shit on any social media platform. And I'm sorry if that offends anybody. Well, actually, I'm not fucking sorry at all. I don't care. If you're one of those people that spend your time trolling people to get a reaction, or if you're somebody in the community yourself, in any of these communities yourself, and you have an inkling or a suspicion about something, do the right honourable thing. Take your suspicions to the fucking person.
Yeah.
Don't be a fucking pussy. Go to the person, stop spreading bullshit. And I've seen it happen a lot to a lot of people. And, you know, some very big people that I'm now talking to and friends with now, it's happened to. And some people that are, you know, just trying to make it right now. I can't stand those fucking people. I can't stand people like that. You know, and this will bring me on to, I'm sure you're going to ask about, do I get the odd, we've spoke about this before, the odd mention of scripting stuff. Well, of course I do. Everyone does. Do you want to ask a specific question on that, or are you good?
Go for it. No, go for it, mate. Because that is something that you've had. It's a topic that gets brought up every now and then. Scripted versus unscripted. And I've always been very clear on this. I genuinely don't care, provided no one's getting hurt. Which is, well, I did the interview with Milo, the average sniper, where he was scripting his stuff, but he was doing it on a live server. That's bullshit. If people don't know, but Frankie, we all know now a lot of his stuff was scripted. The majority of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't care because it was entertaining.
Mate, it was fucking good shit. Fair enough.
It's almost like, for those who don't know, the scripted video is fucking hard. It's easier to make an unscripted content because it's going to be hours of gameplay that might result in nothing if you die unexpectedly or whatever. But to make a good, engaging scripted video, you've got to have some fucking talent. So I don't really see it as that. It's kind of almost a compliment. Oh, you think I'm that good?
Oh, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Right. So check this out, right? I actually tried, and I've got it marked up on my YouTube channel. I once tried a role play server where everything was scripted, right? And I can't remember what the name of the video is, but I've put on the title RP, right? Role play. And I put in the description, this was fully fucking arranged, scripted, right? It's the only one I've done full scripted. It's the only video I've done that is properly scripted, right? So, and I tell you fucking what, Jesus Christ, mate, that took me months to get people to sit in a scene, explain the scene, get them to do it 20 fucking times when they stepped in the wrong place, or they had a gun out, or they shot someone, or they killed someone, they fucked around. Mate, do you know how difficult that was? I've spoken to lots, I won't mention names, I've spoken to a lot of content creators who do that regularly, right? And I tell you what, mate.
Well, even just like, for some that will do, even like a JLK video, where half of it is it's not half, it's probably the majority of it is actual live, but then to add to the dramatic element of it, he'll recreate scenes to add to the storyline. You know, the people who might be raiding him or something like that. That's a lot of fucking effort goes into that, doesn't it? To get people to,
I mean,
you know,
well, put it this way.
my mate Vidge calls it herding cats. The more people involved, the harder it fucking gets.
Well, put it this way, right? I didn't. Bear in mind, I'm brand new to this, right? 3 years I've been going, 3 years, right? So prior to the 3 years, I had no editing background or skills whatsoever, right? I didn't even know how to turn the fucking computer properly on in terms of mics, as you will attest to, because what happened to the last podcast? I was there for half an hour trying to work out how to get the fucking mic working. So the end of the day, to do all of that and to get a group of people who will give you their time, which could be for weeks at a time, mate, I tell you what, you need a budget, you need a film crew, you need a production fucking crew, you need a server to do it all on, you need admins, you know, mate, honestly, right? That there is some heavy, heavy ass film, cinematic type stuff. I'll tell you what, do you think anyone would be able to do 2 videos a month or 4 videos a month? Do you really think someone could put out 4 videos a month scripted? What about 3? What about 2? What about 1? Right? So I'll tell you this now. What I started to do was now there are constraints on Twitch and YouTube. YouTube's a little bit different, but there are constraints on Twitch. So I started. To be honest with you, I don't get a lot of these comments, but I have had a couple of comments on a few videos. Maybe like, I don't know, if I was to amount the whole lot, guess I've probably got about 20 comments on all of, you know, on the whole of the amount of videos I've done going, oh, this is scripted. Oh, yeah, fuck off. That ain't true. And, you know, this type of shit, right? I get one every now and then, right? And it's usually people who are new to the game who don't understand that all cinematics are scripted. Every bit of the cinematics I've ever done have to be scripted. I can't get a camera angle on a character without a cinematic fucking server, which I do have a server. I do have a server which is run by my guy called Dave, who his job is to set up whatever map I'm on, and I will have that server ready. He will have it with what I need on it so that we can create the cinematic intro or a map animation or some kind of cinematic halfway through where a guy's running through a field, right? That's a given. Every content creator has that done, whether they do it themselves or use an editor. That's how that happens. Right. Yeah. So take that out of the equation. A lot of what I do is done live. Pretty much 90% of what I do is done live, which is why a lot of my videos will have the fucking alerts from Twitch on it. Going, you know, and my last one, the last Lone Sniper I put out Friday, I've got non-stop at times. I've had to try and edit some out, but I've, you know, M4 shots kicking off or GGs or whatever the fuck's going on, right? And the problem is on Twitch is that it only keeps that live for a certain period of time before it automatically deletes it. It comes off your channel. So what I do is I put all of my content on YouTube that are live content, only live content, I put to my members. So all of my members, paying members on YouTube, get members-only content, and it's all the live footage, right? So all of them know it's real, all of them, because they watch it. The podcast is scripted. Sly, still even. How you doing, buddy?
He's a good guy, still. People check him out as well.
Yeah.
I've had him on as a guest on the show before, and he's a very, very smart man.
He's a good lad. Yeah. And congratulations, by the way, to him for hitting his 100K quite some time ago now. But he
gets a silver play button. Congratulations, Sil.
He's done really well, mate. I'm proud of him. He's done really, really well, mate. It is an absolute mission to get to 100K subs. Absolute fucking mission.
There's actually something that you and him have in common. You're both very business focused. Like, you know, because we could see the board behind you. One of the things I love about you, and one of the things that always boggles why you hang around with me, is you are taking this very seriously. You've got a team of people. You plan shit. It definitely shows in your growth. how much time and effort goes into your job.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is something that I can honestly, hand on heart, fucking hand on Bible if need be, say, right? If you're doing a live, full stop, right? The whiteboard behind me still. That's the way to go, mate. Contributes so much to my personal, mate. Exactly the same as what I have behind me. You can see the whiteboard behind me. I've got two sides of that, by the way. Everything on it. Anyway, so think about this for a minute. What a conspiracy this would be, right? So I use multiple servers. I use a lot of official servers, but let's deal with official first, right? So I would have to have some major power to say to the dev team, to the server fucking runners, which are Nitrado or whoever they're with now, everyone would have to be in on it. You'd have Marks would have to be on it. You'd have fucking Scotty would have to be in on it, right? So I'd have the power to go to DayZ and say to them, that server is this number. I need you to spawn me some shit in, or I need you to TP me here, or I need you to set up a fight for me. Fucking come on, people. I mean, come on, Boydie. You know all these people I've just mentioned, right?
They wouldn't do it for you, mate.
Of course they fucking wouldn't do it. Of course they wouldn't. It's a game worth a lot of money. What? Of course they wouldn't. That is on official servers, and a lot of what I do is on official servers, right? Okay, so
I just want to
this.
quickly clarify as well. I did say it in chat there. The poll is a piss take. Cobra knows me. We're running a poll at the moment on YouTube as to
what's it come out as? But just out of interest, what's that come up as?
80% are saying no. I said be ruthless in there, and they're all fucking backing you, mate. They're fucking pussies. Go hard on him.
I'll tell you what, right? Speak to Ill Manners, who's basically my main editor on the channel. He's here now. Ill Manners is my latest recruit on the editing side. Ask him, with the footage that he receives, which is all of the files for everything I do, ask him, because he would know. He's there in chat right now. so that's that. Secondly, all right, so let's get to the nuts and bolts of this, right? Modded servers, yes, it is possible. But let me be clear, right? I deal only like Seal does, actually. And like many other content creators, I think Division was in the chat earlier. I think a few others were in. I deal with the top servers only. In fact, no, I won't name them. I was going to name them, but I won't name them because then you'll know the exact server I'm going to be on. But let me put it this way, and I'll get fucking stream sniped and stuff. But anyway, I get that a lot anyway. But anyway, let's just say the top 5 to 10 servers that are out there that are well respected, that have massive admin teams, that everyone, full pop servers, legitimate full pop servers. My Cobra brand and who I am is all about authenticity, right? They're the servers I go to. So I would have to have a special relationship with some of the biggest server owners, all of them. I would have to have a good relationship with some of the ones that, have massive admin teams, and they would have to agree to set all that up. Come on now. You can imagine a very new server with no population. You could imagine, I don't know, a couple of maybe other servers that maybe have fallen foul to some dodgy shit in the past. I won't mention any names. Possibly, right? But I don't deal with them. So, the only thing that I do is, and I'll tell you this now as well, that there is every now and then, we do get every now and then corrupt files. And it has happened once or twice. So there have been times where I've gone to my lot, look, I've got a whole video here, but I've got a corrupt file at this part. I need to fucking actually try to work with it. So either cut the whole thing, which is half the video, or I try somehow.
When you've got hours of footage that you're trying to break down, and then a crucial part's missing, you've either got to ditch the fucking video, and that's hours of work gone, and
that's
potential
weeks
income lost, or recreate it. So I don't see an issue with that.
Well, put it this way: I try my best not to ever get into a situation where I have to or even try to recreate anything. But let me tell you this: the cinematics are scripted. All cinematics on every content creator's work is scripted. Fact, right? There you go. Whether it's done by an editor or by them themselves, You cannot fucking achieve that any other way, right?
Mm.
In terms of footage, everything I do is authentic. Bar if I have to try to recover, and it's very rare that that happens, a bit of footage, and at which point I'll have to go, look, I don't think I can recreate this, so the video's fucked. That's gone. That's a week's worth of work gone. Or I will cut it out, or I will say to one of my lot, right, can you dress up in this stuff, and I will shoot a cinematic. That's how I deal with it. And if it's shit, I just won't even use it anyway. So at the end of the day, it's really, if you're going to create a film, look at films. Any film, it takes about a year, maybe 2-3 years to create an actual film that's worthy of cinema. Right? I know this is talking about YouTube here, but mate, you need some serious team, budget, people. You need everything resource wise to do that, and you've got to have everyone in on it. So, you know, what can you say to that?
How did you pick your channel name? Cobra.
Well, that is something that I've always, do you know what? When I was little, I can't even tell you how, but I've always liked the name Cobra since I was a little kid. I used it for my passwords when I was little. So to me, it was just Cobra. That's it. That's what I use. That's it. That there's no great story behind that. That's it. I've always had it. So,
do you like the animal or just the?
No, just love the name. Just love the name. Yeah, just love the name. There's no story behind it. That's literally it. I've always liked the name as a little kid. And there you go.
Well, that was boring. I was hoping there was going to be some
major story.
Yeah.
No, not at all. Not at all. But I tell you what though. What I was going to say, I have had someone say to me, before you get onto that, let me quickly deal with this. I have had somebody in the content creation world say to me, it was a bit of a strange message, but they said to me something like, oh, can I see the live footage of that video? And I've gone, mate, this was filmed 4 months ago, 3 months ago. You can either go to Twitch where it won't be there, or you can become a member on my YouTube page, and then you can go look at it. So what do you want me to say to that? What do you want me to say to that? Anyway, yeah, sorry, mate. You were saying.
How important has your community been for you in rebuilding after your service?
Massive, mate, massive. And what I try to do is repay that with how I am with people. I try to have some time with people. There's a number of the community, the Cobra community in the chat. I'll pick out a name that I have actually personally been to see, and I've done this a few times with a few people. But Cat Flapper, who I know is in chat, is someone who suffers with PTSD too. It's not my place to go into any of that. I don't know the full circumstances, but Cap has been a very big supporter of my channel for a long time, and I do my best, and he's a typical example of Scale Speeder says, yeah, I went on the tour. I did, mate. Yeah, he knows about that. I spoke to Speed about that. Anyway,
Speeder's a top bloke as well, folks.
He is. He's a good lad.
Definitely worth subscribing to his channel, particularly if you want a good review of Greg's sausage rolls.
Fucking hell. He's a good lad. Subscribe to his channel anyway. Mm-hmm. But no, Cap is someone that I've personally spent time with and can sympathise with, because he's got similar issues. And there's many others in my community that do have either those type of backgrounds, or armed forces background, or, you know, whatever the case may be. But like I say, I do try my best. It's very difficult to find the time to speak to people individually, because my upload is crazy. I'll spend a week filming, a week editing, then the video's out, straight into a week editing, a week filming, videos out. So, and we're talking 8-hour days as well. I mean, Sil knows all the fucking about that, and I think a few other content creators in chat know all about that. So, you know, yeah, we do what we can. We do a lot of stuff on my Discord, don't forget. So we try and buy coffees for homeless vets and whatever else, because they were always the army has always been a big part of my life, growing up with my dad and my family. Silver Fox. No, I won't be changing the channel. It costs too much for branding.
Mate, I loved when the running man brought that up in the run you had with him. People in my chat are saying that you're called the Silver Fox. I fucking that made my day. I was like, yes, it's gone global.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
that was awesome, mate. We're starting to wind down now before we do some Q&A from the audience, because there has been a lot of questions, and I've said that we'll take them later. If you could speak to your younger self before everything began, what would you say?
I'd certainly know that content creation was probably a good idea 10, 15 years ago. My channel would have been massive. I'd have made a shitload of money. But look, life is about, if you want meaningful purpose in life, it's about a selfless pursuit of helping others. And whether that can be a million different things, that can be doing a simple act of kindness, that could be serving your country, that could be doing whatever, even stacking shelves at a superstore, whatever you choose to do, whatever you're doing right now, it doesn't matter about all this egotistical bollocks. It doesn't matter what roles you've held. It doesn't matter where you've been. It doesn't matter your race, your ethnicity, your sex. None of that shit matters.
We all bleed red. We all shit. We all piss. We're all sacks of meat. Fucking
yeah. And do you know what? Right? What fucking does me in is there are people that will just do nothing more than want to see you fall, right? And unfortunately, there are a lot of people that want that to happen. And I'm expecting now, I do expect that as a result of doing this, that I will probably be asked some questions at some point. And you know what? The first thing I'll say is I will know exactly where it's come from. So far away, do what you got to do. But ultimately, I've been very, very clear on this. There's nothing I've said here tonight that I'm not allowed to say. There's also nothing. I've been as open, as honest as I can be. Go on. What? What have you put here?
Sorry, stop that one. I missed it. Go
on. What did you put? I've missed it completely.
Bigger threat to the UK, Meghan Markle or Donald Trump?
Jack, what colour is the boathouse at Hereford?
That's a fucking great question, Jack Ryan. I fucking love that one.
He's funny. He is fucking funny.
And yes, I did notice we've got the Silver Wolf in here watching the Silver Fox get interviewed.
He is.
How cool is that?
Yeah. He is.
What does strength mean to you now compared to earlier in your career? You touched on that a little bit with that answer just before about you hate people who big themselves up, generally by trying to tear someone else down. But what do you see now as strength? Because you've always been a man who's in good shape. You obviously know how to handle yourself. You're probably a decent shot. You told me about a certain holiday you took a couple of years back, which I thought was the best fucking thing ever. But how do you view that now?
Well, my perspective is very different now. I think a lot of that comes with experience and age. But going through my biggest battle I've ever had, the hardest time I've ever had, is going through what I've just described. It wasn't anything I've ever done. It was coming out of something that I thought would never happen to me. I thought I'd be less of a man having it and admitting to it. The second you come to terms, and it takes time to come to terms with the fact that you are actually you're not impenetrable. You're not some fucking god. It doesn't matter what role you've held or what you've done in your life. It doesn't make you any better than anyone else. As soon as you come to terms with that, you are the same as every other fucker out there when it comes down to it. And you all have problems. Every person in this world has some issues.
Yes.
No matter what it is, they will have an issue. Anyone that says they hasn't is full of shit. Absolutely full of shit.
Anyone who's pretending, again, we've talked about this a lot in the past, mate. Yeah, you might be looking at someone else and thinking their life's great. Trust me, it isn't. We see it all the time. These social media influencers who they're faking it, and even if they do make it, their lives are still shit. We sadly, the world lost Robin Williams, a guy who everyone thought had fucking everything, and that's the black dog. Depression, fucking, it's there for everyone. So don't look at someone else and think fucking they've got everything I wish I had. Look around you. You'll probably find you've got a lot more right around you, starting in your home with your missus and your kids and or your partner or whatever. But yeah, don't ever think that you're shit.
Yeah, I mean, look, we all go through bad times, good times, some more than others, but at the end of the day, that's the biggest fight I've had in my life. So, if I can do it, then fucking everyone else can. Just make sure you reach out and get the help you need before it's too late.
As Captain Flapper said there, you're never less of a man for opening up.
Yeah,
Fuck no.
absolutely. Absolutely.
What does a good future look like for Cobra?
Well, I mean, my life's very different now. I'm okay with where I am. I'm okay with the fact that what was is well in the past. I look back sometimes with fond memories. I also look back in times and think, well, that sacrifice was at the sacrifice of my family. So life's very different now. It's about a little bit of quality now if I can achieve that, and it's about I've got a new interest that I can actually partake in role wise, and that is YouTube. So,
good comment there. Never knew the UK had a Dollar General Obi-Wan Nairobi. That guy's a fucking badass as well. If you don't know who he's talking about, go look up the videos. That guy is operator fucking next level shit. That's one of the most amazing fucking stories out there. But yeah, carry on.
No, that's it, mate. That's all I was gonna say. So yeah, I think pretty much that's pretty much it.
I just watched a video on Keith Flint. That was so sad. So fucking sad. The Prodigy singer.
Yeah.
If someone watching this is struggling in silence, what do you want them to hear, mate?
Look, ultimately, we'll put some links up, I'm sure, at the end of this, but there's always someone there willing to listen somewhere. And if it means you've got to get help to go get it, then go get it. The best thing you can do is come out of the shadows and face it head on. And it's not going to be easy, but
my missus gave me a good saying, mate, back in the day when everything was overwhelming me, and how do you eat a whale? One bite at a time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And something I've said to people in the past is, when you have issues in your life, at that moment they appear like Mount Everest. But I can guarantee you, barring a few things, those unforgivables, you did something terrible with a kid or a woman, or you murdered someone or something like that, that shit's going to live with you for the rest of your life. But nearly everything else, there's going to come a time where you're going to look back and look at what Cobra's been through in his life, some of the shit he's seen, and even just talking about it now, he's able to laugh about a lot of it, not all of it, but he's able to laugh about a lot of it, and that's the way the body is. We all go through trauma, and you're going to lose loved ones, you're going to lose friends, but there will come a time where that pain will disappear, and you'll only have the fond memories, or you'll be able to laugh about things that might seem a bit dark at the time, but that's just the way you deal with things. So this too shall pass is the other my missus had, that she gave to me. That whilst it might be overwhelming at the time, this too shall pass.
Yeah, there you go. There is one thing I feel I probably should clear up very briefly. I mentioned earlier on in this interview that I'm very, very careful about what I say, because I know I've had it said to me about what I can and can't say previously. But when it comes to information around individual officers that may or may not still be serving, and how some may or may not be feeling, bearing in mind my information is now 3 years out of date. It doesn't reflect what is currently happening anywhere in any kind of police force or anything that may be going on right now. I've been out of it for 3 years, so what people may think may still be the same, may not. That's all I can say. So
all views and statements were just our personal opinions made in this episode.
Absolutely.
There was no lizard people fucking telling Cobra what he can and can't say.
Oh, absolutely.
Is King Charles a reptile?
Fucking, I don't know, mate. Is he? Well above my pay grade, mate. Back then. So,
right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for you. Any questions that you have for the man, the myth, the legend, the silver fox himself, Cobra? Hit him up in chat, folks. While we wait for people to do that, I just want to say thank you, mate. This has been one hell of an interview. And there's 101 questions that people have, but there's some questions you just don't ask people.
that's right. Yeah.
And there's if you've been in these sorts of roles in the military and that, you just know there's some questions about whether someone killed someone or something like that. You don't ask. If it comes up in a conversation and it needs to be said, then it'll get brought up at that time. But otherwise, I can't thank you enough for doing this. I've wanted to chat, ever since you've told me a lot more even than you've said here, but that's between me and you, and doesn't need to be said. If the time comes up when it does, that'll be Cobra's province to share that sort of stuff that he wants to say. But I've really enjoyed this one, mate. You are. I'm grateful for. I can't even remember how I became aware of you, who put me onto you, but I'm so glad they did, because I have made closer friends through fucking silly, stupid video games than I have with anyone I served with. I've been blessed to get to work with people like you, mate. And I can't thank you enough for standing by me as well.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, mate, look, everyone's got views, haven't they? Some people sail close to the wire, the wind, however you want to term that. I mean, don't get me wrong, as well as I do, there's a lot of people, there have been people in the community, some quite well-known people, who have said to me, you need to get away from the podcast, you need to get away from Boydie, blah, blah, blah. But as I've always said, as you know, I will make my own decisions. I will speak to people myself. I'll listen to people's opinions, but it doesn't mean I'm going to agree with you. The end of the day,
Cobra's up me for the rent many a time, folks, about some of the shit I've done. But again, like he said before, if he's got an issue with something I've done, he comes and talks to me. He doesn't fucking talk to other people about it. He comes and talks to me. Yeah, and I'm the same. I've had people tell me to disassociate myself with one I've been public about. I've had many people question why I associate with Archie. I fucking love the guy. He's like my fucking little US redneck fucking red-haired fucking psychotic brother. I love the guy because he's a pretty straight shooter. And that matters more to me than making other people who I don't care about happy. So fuck them.
Well, like I say, the world is made up of many different people. And at the end of the day, look, someone may have a bad day and say something they shouldn't say, but does that define them for the rest of their lives? You know what I mean? At the end of the day, if someone's deliberately being a prick and wants to deliberately hurt people, that's one thing. But if you're trying to do good and you're trying to express yourself, and sometimes even expressing yourself, sometimes things come out the wrong way, or, you hold an opinion that isn't shared by everybody, surely you've got to give credit for someone to actually come out in a respectable way and say, this is what I'm thinking. Agreed, the terminology sometimes might not be what people may deem as politically correct these days. But if you're trying to do good, then, at the end of the day, does it fucking matter?
Question from John Lynn. What is the biggest skill from your service, your career, that helps you in DayZ?
I think it's analytical, mate. I think it's research. So, for instance, how I would deem that in terms of DayZ is that I will be meticulous in a map. I will know every part of the map, and I will spend however long it takes for me to know that map inside out. And that's something that comes with years of research and intelligence and that type of stuff. So I'd say that's probably the biggest transferable skill.
Joe Mart, after your tendon injuries and ligaments to your knees, can you still lift heavy weights, and how does it affect you in your gym journey?
Oh no, absolutely, mate. I can lift heavier than I ever did before. I'm just cognizant of the fact that sometime before I reach the age of 55 or 60, I'll probably need a knee replacement. But other than that, at the moment, it's still working all right. So all the time it is, then you know we're okay, I think, for the time being.
Sorry, just opening something up so I can show something as well. Just for those asking, my shirt is my pink Barbie shirt. It's got lots of bees on it, although the missus says it's her. She got me this because I'm her big, black, beautiful boydie. There was something else. Now, I did say in Cobra's Discord that people were a bit worried because obviously we delved into some serious stuff. But I said I've got an outfit picked, and this is only one half of it. I've actually got something else very, very special on for you, Cobra. This
Oh,
is just for you, mate.
Oh no. Oh no. What the fuck are you doing?
They're my elephant pants. Would you like to see my trunk?
I think I'm all right, mate. Thanks. I'm good. I'm good. I don't know about the chat.
Do you prefer the MP5
in game?
That's a weird question. Have you fired an MP5 in real life? I'm going to guess yes.
No.
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 Kirk or Picard from Offset?
I think you got to have Kirk, in you.
Yeah.
I think.
We've got the question about the stream. Just checking to make sure any more questions. I'm just scrolling down. Yeah, I'm with you on that, Captain Flapper. I've made more friends through DayZ than I've ever made in real life. Yeah. What approach to CBT helped you the most? Darren P. watching DayZ. And just clarify, what's CBT?
Are we talking about? Well, can I come back to that?
Yep.
Yeah, we'll come back to that.
Just checking. No more questions. I'm waiting, Boydie. Rated Rain, what are you waiting for, mate?
Oh, your trousers to come off, probably.
Oh, yep. I'm a bit of a DayZ noob, about 3 months, from Mark Kelmo. I'm so impressed with your map knowledge and tips you find. Any tips you find helpful to remember the map?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say 3 to 6 months of constantly going around and visiting every location on the map, visit the trails, run through all the trails, visit the outer areas of every map, the whole lot of it, work out how long it takes you to run around the map, work out the towns, the cities, the names, go in depth in the river structures, the tree lines, the forests, get to know all of that stuff. It'll take 3 to 6 months, roughly, for you to be really, really impressive knowledge-wise with that. And if you really dedicate yourself to doing that, and one of the easiest ways to do this, I find, is the spawn system. So you will spawn in certain locations. Now, you can go to a modded map, a modded community server, and it will give you, some of them will give you the spawn select. Now, that really doesn't help you. If you want to get really good at the game, go to officials, look at all of the spawn systems, just kill yourself and just respawn, kill yourself, respawn, and test yourself. Where am I? Look at the tree lines, look at the apartment lines, look at the beach, look at the shoreline, look at the boats, look at the houses, look at every part of that, and run straight to a signpost and work out where you are. Now, each town, each city, each spawn point, there are multiple areas within that spawn point that you can spawn. So if you're in Cherno, there's probably 8, 10, 12 different spawn sites in Cherno alone. So make sure you use all of them. Go through them, go through them, go through them. You will know where that town is immediately when you land. And again, look at different angles from every approach to a town or a city. Have a look at the tree lines overlooking cities, stuff like that, and look at it from 360. You do a 360 view on that, run around it, have a look, run around it, have a look. You know, you're going to get to know every part of every town and know immediately where you are. That's one of the best ways to learn that map. Coming back to CBT, so you want
Cognitive
about
behavioral therapy.
yeah. So what part did I find what was it the most helpful? I think just my first sessions of being able to get shit off my chest, just the initial talk was more helpful to me than any of the advanced things they used to do, like the ear to eye, height, sound, bloody close your eyes, blindfold stuff, which is EMDR. It didn't really work with me, EMDR. I did loads and loads of sessions. I had about 24, 25 sessions. It just jumbled things up for me a little bit. Didn't really do an awful lot. I think being able just to be able to talk about stuff that you've not spoken about ever before or for years maybe, that was probably the most helpful bit. The introduction, the first few weeks for me was like a fucking weight off my shoulders. And then after
I
that,
had to like try that stuff with me as well. All the getting me to look in different directions that didn't work on me either.
Yeah.
Just talking was the best for me.
Music, bloody sleep, all kinds of stuff. Tablets, none of them worked. I'll tell you that now. Yeah, so yeah, if that answers your question, I wanted to make sure before I answered that exactly because there's several different forms of that CBT. So,
Ill Manners. How did you get started with the Lone Sniper series?
well, I started it last year, and it's the most successful series I have on the channel. Just under 1 million views on one of the videos, and well, actually, just under 900,000 views on one of the videos, and all of them are doing really well in the hundreds of thousands, most of them, view wise. I looked at analytically what I thought was a particular highlight, viewing highlight at the time I made the first one. And as Sil will tell you, a lot of people from other games, not just DayZ, like a tactical approach. So, and there's many different approaches. You don't have to be a ghillie, you don't have to be a sniper. There's loads of different approaches you can use. And I would, if you're aspiring content creator out there, or you are looking for the next niche, I would look at something that others aren't doing. And this, which is what I did at the time. Yeah, there were people doing sniper video, like running around as a ghillie and killing a few people, but dedicating a video to just sniping, I thought, well, I'm going to do that, and it's been worth it. But there's loads of others out there. There's loads of other genres out there that people haven't tapped into. I've got loads of ideas that are doing really well on other games that no one in DayZ is doing. Now, I don't want to move into that because we are now known for the sniper series, and they all do well. So I'm going to stick with that. But there are loads and loads of different areas you could look at. Tactical gameplay is something that a lot of people like.
What's your favorite comfort food?
Food. I'll be boring here, mate. I'm going to go with, if it's in the morning, probably oats and raisins or something, oats and fruit or something. If it's in a like a dinner setting, I like simple stuff like chicken breasts and stuff like that, healthy-ish type stuff, rice, nothing too extravagant. I like the odd Chinese every now and then, but I try to be good on that.
What's one thing you would add to DayZ that would make the game great for you?
This is a real tough one because I know I've spoken to some of the dev team over the last year about this. We've definitely spoke to Marks about it before and after his role as a community manager for DayZ. There are two things for me. Number one is official base building. That needs, in my opinion, I've been on it for years. I've been talking about it for years and years and years. I know it's difficult to change certain aspects. I know that there's probably needing a new engine or whatever else going on here, but official wise, DayZ is well behind on base building front. And if it was up to scratch on the base building front, the game would fly off. Yes. It would hit new records, in my opinion.
I 100% agree. I think that's the advantage Rust has over DayZ. But you've also base building.
Yeah, but you've also got to remember that the dev team, I don't care what anyone says. I've actually personally met a lot of them. They're very good, very nice people. I know they work their asses off. They all work very, very hard. I know. I've seen it there myself, right? We know Lad, we know bloody Jacob, we know DOJ, we know Marks. I know Scotty. I know they work hard, right? And a lot of what
Except
they're
for Mike
doing.
Doherty. He's a slacker.
Oh, I don't know Mike that well, but I'll take your word for that.
I love Mike. He's great.
He's a good lad from what I know of him anyway. But you got to understand, look, they're trying to fix a game that's over 10 years old. They're trying to do fixes all of the time and updates, and
made up of 2 engines melded together.
It's a nightmare. It will be a nightmare. There's always going to be stuff they unintentionally break or things that don't quite work, like the spawn at the moment that they're fixing, and the issues with connectability and instability and fake servers coming up at the moment, all this other shit. You can't expect a small team to take care of all of that shit. There's other things involved, like budgets as well. And, look, at the end of the day, they're bringing out new DLCs. Badlands about to hit. I'm really excited for that, by the way. You've had Sakal recently. Yes, there's good and bad reviews. I mean, personally, it's a new fucking map, mate. I enjoyed exploring it. And if that's all I do on it, then I'm good with that, It's not as if it's £100 a map or something, is it? It is what it is. And the second thing for me, because I do play a lot of official servers, and I know that there's very little you can do here, but the cheaters are starting to make a comeback. It is really hard right now on official servers. There's a lot of with these like
cheaters, dupers, grifters, hackers, fucking at all levels. It's bad,
mate. I this week alone, I have suffered more cheating attacks when I'm trying to film, by the way, than I have probably in the last year. This week alone, I've been killed like 6 times by clear and proper clear cheating that I've recorded. I've got it all. I always record everything I do, right? So, and there's not even a question of it. I mean, you can deal with stream snipers. That happens. Yes, it's shit, but that happens, right? But cheating, it's so. It is demoralizing. It is hard, but you got Battle Eye that can only do so much. You got the dev team that they've got all this other stuff they're doing. What actually can you do? Every game has cheaters. What can you actually do about it?
Yeah.
Other than the second you create a fix for this particular cheat, they're fucking already found 10 others.
Yeah. Always playing
catch up. Do you know what I mean? They're never going to be on top of it. Never going to be fully cheat free. No game will be. There's always people out there who spend their whole days and livelihoods fucking dedicated to it. But the most realistic one, let's go back to that, and that is the base build on officials.
Yep.
For me.
Mark Elmo, it's obvious you must like football. What's your team?
Liverpool. All day, every day.
I think we are done with what map are you planning for your next video?
Oh, that's a tough one. We're in the mod team and I are looking now. I don't know, to be honest with you. We've just finished Deer Isle. We haven't done Livonia for a little while. Badlands is hopefully coming out soon. We haven't had that yet, an announcement yet. So I don't know. Probably Cherno, I'd say, maybe. Probably. I'm not sure. Livonia or Cherno. It'll be one of them.
How much can you bench press?
Oh, now probably not as much as I used to. I think I got to about 150-ish, roughly, something like that.
Cobra, thank you so much, mate. I think we are done. Ladies and gentlemen, I put a request in the chat there. Please post the country and the phone numbers for anyone who is needing help with the Black Dog at the moment. Post a link to your favorite numbers here in Australia. We've got 2 major ones, Lifeline or Beyond Blue. I'll post them in the chat right now. If the rest of you can post something from your region, would be very muchly appreciated. You're never alone. There's always someone out there who cares about you, who you might not even think cares about you. Just reach out and say something. Let someone know you're struggling. More often than not, you'll find someone who can empathize and maybe even sympathize because they've been through the same.
Absolutely.
Any last things you want to say? Anything you want to shout out, Cobra?
It's taken a lot for me to do this. I've put this off for years. I've been asked to do this a lot. I've been asked to do an interview by other very reputable people as well in the past.
Not as reputable as me, of course.
Of course not. Of course not. With some big audiences, and I've always said no, purely for the insight around the police. It was a political potato at the time. I think a couple of years back, loads of things going on, and and I felt now was probably a good time. Some of it was already out there now anyway. It'd already been brought out without my knowledge. So at the end of the day, it was time to clear a few things up. All I can say is, given what's been said today, it's what I believe I can say. I haven't breached any confidentiality or anything like that, in my opinion, at all. I've deliberately stayed away from a lot of subjects. I've not gone into any details at all about what really I used to do. And that's the way it should be.
This is all you're going to get, folks. This is all you're going to get, and it's all you need to get. You don't need to know everything about everyone. And you don't need to tell everyone everything about you as well. Remember that.
Oh,
folks.
hell no. Hell no. I mean, like I say, if you are suffering with PTSD and that, which I can talk about, then the best thing you can do is get help as quickly as you can, quickly as possible.
Exactly.
That's the start of the road.
It's a long road, and it's a battle that you'll have for the rest of your life. And just remember, for those of you who have served, whether it be in law enforcement or in the ambulance or firefighters or just any of those frontline sort of services, there's nothing wrong with you for eventually ending up this way. It's a completely natural reaction to the shit you go through in your life. It's not your fault. It's not anyone else's fault. It's just, unfortunately, the world we live in needs people who have to do these horrible jobs. Isn't that right, Cobra?
Yeah, I mean, you don't sign up to do a horrible job. You join up to make a difference. That's what you join up for. And then, unfortunately, to make a difference takes sacrifice. And you don't necessarily know fully what you're getting yourself into until it's there. And one day you're like, "Fuck, I've done all this. I need some help." So, yeah.
I appreciate that, Captain Flapper. This was an honor and a privilege. Like I said, I've known Cobra for a number of years now, and I feel blessed for having him in my life. I feel blessed for having everyone who's tuned in and watched. We were up to over 70 viewers there at one point, and that's 70 people. That's a couple of busfuls. That's a train full of people fucking listening to two dickheads talk shit. But in this case, they had a very, very interesting guest. Hands down, one of the best interviews I've ever done, Cobra. Thank you so much for sharing your story, my man.
Oh, you're welcome, mate. You're welcome. Thanks for having us.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much. I'm not going to do a redirect after this. It's been a pretty big one. Remember, go check out that video I shared. It's called "You're Not in the Forces Now." It'll give you a healthy insight into the mindset of people who go through this sort of training and trauma, and how it affects them afterwards. But all the best, everyone.
Take care.
See you next time. Ciao for now.